Eyes closed and feel. Feel for the seer. Standing wave column of sand, spinning around you. Breathe slowly. Very gently, repeat 3 times after me. Manu Ekredakuki, Mahayana Treyari, Manu Ekredakuki, Mahayana Treyari, Manu Ekredakuki, Mahayana Treyari. Now prepare to begin a slow clockwise rotation, performing song number 4. In your own time, begin clockwise. Manikari Nahura, Aramaya Manaki, 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 Manikari Nahura. Okay, take it up. Aramaya Manaki, you know what to do there. Breathe easy and feel the pillow once more. Repeat the closing song 3 times. Ashalom Ha, Akashalom, Ashalom Ha, Akashalom, Ashalom Ha, Akashalom. feeling it there.
It's kind of like the real quiet footsteps you use when you just got the baby to go to sleep and you're trying to get out of the bedroom without making the bed springs or the floorboards. I didn't see one disc drop. That's amazing.
There's a nice big portal coming on my way.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Just slot everything in the door, right? No problem. I think so. Indeed.
One more thing.
With the
Since we've done so wonderfully with this salutation, we didn't see one disc fall down. That's excellent. For a bunch of new people with us, that's excellent. Good job, guys. Okay. Now, to get a bit of benefit out of the seer that you just created, even though you moved to the side of it, you're still running the currents yourself in the body. There's a way to amplify that, and it's called a two-point breath. It's something that we're going to be using more extensively tomorrow when we get into the flame body activations and the shadow healing techniques. But in simple terms, there's a little spot here in the bottom of your thymus gland. It's right about here. It appears where the 8th chakra would be, but it's like actually in the thymus gland. It's called the Azure A point. It's a very significant point. When you look at a Kathara grid, the whole central point of that Kathara grid is the spot on the crossbar between 6 and 7. All right? It's not marked by a Kathara center. Now, this spot marks that spot in the body's Kathara grid. It is the spot where the Amaraya flame begins its activation to spread out through the rest of the body. Now, what we can do is pull, as we breathe, we can use, I'm just going to go through this once with you before you do it, but we can use the inhale breath to do two things at once, which is draw energy from the 14th chakra, which is 36 inches above the head, and simultaneously draw pale silver D12 Maharat current up from chakra 13 in Earth's core. And syncopate them where you can get them to meet right there at the Azure at the same time. That would be on the inhale. Then on the exhale, you go, and you begin to push it out into the field, all through your molecules, through your body, and into the field. After a few of those, you will start to feel heat, particularly if you've activated currents through a salutation or something like that. This is something that will be used to amplify Amaraya flame activation once that's fully activated. So I'd like you to try it, and we're going to use a very special combination of currents called the golden silver one. The golden silver one current has to do with the current of demanifestation. It turns light back into sound when you know how to play with it. Now, it's a very powerful current for healing and for amplifying. The golden silver one is simply the D12 pale silver frequency coming up, and pale yellow D14 frequency coming down from the 14th chakra. All right? Simply breathe the two together. They combine in the Azure point into a spark of golden silver one light, and then you push it out into the field. You can even sit for this if you wanted to sit down on the ground, because sometimes you can feel it better when the Kundalini is running, where you actually can feel movement in the tailbone. So it's up to you if you want to stand or sit for this. It doesn't matter. But I'm going to sit down because I like the feel of it. I can feel it more fully in the body. It's real simple and it's fast. I mean, you can sit there for 45 minutes if you want to and do it. Like the more you do it, the more current you're bringing in. Right? But if you don't want to sit, you can do it three breaths and be done. You can do none and be done if you want to. All right. So you simply draw on the inhale. You're drawing pale silver D12 current up from chakra 13, Earth's core, and same time, pale yellow D14 current down from chakra 14, 36 inches above the head, meeting at the Azure point at the base of the thymus gland. Then exhale. And the faster you do them, the hotter you get. And also clear your lungs if you have a cold. I see it's all the smokers in the room, right? And you can do it as long as you want to or as short as you want to. You can take it home and put yourself to sleep doing it. You can also play with it and see what happens when, instead of meeting at the Azare point, there's another little point called the Iyumbi point, E-UMBI, Iyumbi point, that's right below the navel, just right below the navel. Deep inside the main vertical current, but in a position right below the navel. It's a little trickier to do this because the distance is different. So to try to get the moving at the right rate, where they meet there at the same time, it's a little different than having them meet here. Now, both of these points are important points when it comes to flame body activation, as we'll learn tomorrow. You can try that. See if you could feel the difference, how awkward it can be at first when you're trying to get the silver current to come out, which doesn't have to come up as far, and bring the gold one down, and try to see if you can get them at the same rate there. Some people it might come easy, but for me it was like, this was simple, but bring them down here. It's like, wait a minute, you come down faster, you're not going fast enough. Just see, play with it a little bit. And you can play with it through all of your chakras if you want to. In meditation or before you go to sleep at night, it is a wonderful healing, clearing exercise. It will transmute stuff, miasmic mess, goopy stuff, that isn't part of your natural divine blueprint. It will restore it back to its divine blueprint and literally take it out of light manifestation or crystallization and back into natural sound pattern. All right? So, it's also going to be a technique that's going to, a way of running energy that's going to be used later. I'm not sure which program they're putting it in, but I know there's a secret of demanifesting things in your life. Before you worry about manifesting things, think about the things you want to move out of the way to make room. So this would be the frequency that you would use to do it. I have a feeling it's in the Dance for Freedom that they're going to be introducing how to use it for those purposes. Because on a mass level, we can begin doing a lot of healing on a planetary level if we begin to understand how to lovingly and joyfully demanifest by running this current into the planetary grids. So it literally transmutes anything that's stuck back to its highest level of evolution, so it can start all over if it wants to. It's freeing. It's not burning something up and making it go away and disappearing and killing it and annihilating it. It's returning it to its original pure state before it even entered light manifestation. So then it has a choice in its freedom to whether it wants to do something completely different or come back down and try it again with its divine blueprint intact. So play with it, just and expand it here. It's going into the telluric shield. It's pale yellow, but when it mixes with the pale silver, it turns into a pale yellowy gold silver kind of thing, metallic, right? But it's the pale yellow D14 primal light field current. So that was just a little thing of introducing that a little early that Ma'a wanted us to give to you tonight to play with, should you want to. You can play with it when you're laying horizontal, because the Kundalini works a little different. When you're laying horizontal, it actually runs more smoothly sometimes, and it has to do with the planetary grid distortions, actually. That there are times, I know, even when I'm translating off the plates, I find that I have to lay down on my back and just literally get off translation for a little bit, lay down horizontal. I don't have to sleep. Sometimes I will, but I don't have to. What I need to do is let the Kundalini run on a horizontal plane instead of the vertical plane. And it's like, otherwise you get like log jams of energy in my body. You get real tight shoulders and the neck starts to tighten up, and then it works its way down the back. And, by 7 o'clock in the evening, you're limping around like you're 900 years old. If we begin to realize that you can shift what the energy is doing in your body simply by changing posture, like say if you're leaning on one cheek instead of the other on the chair at work, you're actually creating log jams of energy on one side of the body. And, you'll feel that. It will start to stress the other side that tries to compensate. So there are things you can do. You can play with this tonight. You'll get more effect laying on your back at first. You'll be able to feel the spread more when you breathe it out. But eventually, you'll get to the point where it doesn't matter, up or down. You'll be able to hold the frequency. Tomorrow when we do the exercises, if you start finding yourself feeling like you're ready to pass out and go to sleep, that's okay. That means frequency saturation right now for what your DNA is ready to hold and what your body's used to holding. You may find to stay awake, it would be better to lay on your back. So we'll try to arrange the chairs tomorrow a little bit where there's a little bit of space, hopefully, where if people need to, or at least a space like in the back of the room or something, that people, as we're doing the exercises, they can quietly get up and continue the exercise, but do it horizontally if you need to. Because it can really help you stay conscious while you're doing activations that you're not used to. And eventually you won't have to do it. You'll be able to do it vertical and say, oh, that was easy. But you need to help your body, nourish your body through the process. So I think for this evening, I think we've covered quite a lot today. The Dance for Love program doesn't require, doesn't require as much time as the Dance for Life does, particularly when it's on the back end of the Dance for Life. So that will leave us quite a bit of time to talk about the really fascinating stuff. After we go through the Eka map of the God World gates, okay, we're going to go through those to find out what these Stargate things are and to find out basically the structure of creation coming down from the top. So we can see where we're here. We see where our options are to go. For now, we can go to our rooms or we can go out to a restaurant or whatever we want to do and have a good time. I want to thank you for your patience with our time frames when we run on Guardian time.
And I do want to share with them what happened to the stranded Yanni who at the end of our music didn't go back.
Oh, those guys we will at the end.
Okay.
Okay, yeah.
One major question. When you're running the Maharak shield and you have the Akasha, is the Akasha running along with the silver cord?
Kind of things. We're going to start with the Dance for Love and move through that where we explore what are called stargates and the Eka maps of the God World gates. So we get an idea. We're talking about this thing that's ascension, this being able to go through portals and stargates. What is this? You're doing all these technologies in order to be able to do it. So what is it that you're doing? Let's say you can go through a stargate. What does that mean? So we're going to find out what the stargates are, where they are, and we're going to explore what's called the Stairway to Heaven. And in exploring the Stairway to Heaven, we're also going to take it from the top and come back down and do a little bit of a reading on what was given as far as the creation itself and how these structures were formed. Source formed these things within himself, how these structures were formed. So it's kind of like spiritual training, but also geography training. The geography of the God World gates is pretty fascinating. And once we're finished with that, we're going to do the Suriyas, and there's a bit more symbol code techniques, Veka code techniques to work with in the Dance for Love program. Then we're going to do this. Okay, you guys, they're not handed out yet, are they? Okay, you're doing it now? You guys are going to get one of these. This is that little supplement that you were going to get. I think it's 104 pages. All right, people that were on the Bermuda trip, you'll see a lot of familiar things there because really it's highlights from that, but it also contains what was not in the Bermuda trip, which was Technique 8, which it's like 8 part 1 and 8 part 2, and Technique, by the way, there's Technique 9 in here, but it's not labeled as that. It's a way of using what's called the Song of Kemalatai, which you'll learn in Dance for Love, in combination with the Song of Lyra that we did last night. It's not labeled as such in the book, but they're stuck together, the two songs together, so that's actually Technique 9. Technique 10 of the Bermuda trip was actually a thing we did on site, so there's not a written version of Technique 10. 11 and 12 were a test that had to do with some other stuff that's not covered in this program, so you won't find those in here. But Technique 13 and 14 are the rest of the shadow healing technologies, the flame activation, MRA flame activation healing technologies. They are the most powerful techniques that we've been given so far, and they're pretty awesome. You'll also find out some very interesting things about the shadow. What the heck is this thing? Where is it? And very specifically, what its anatomy is, so you know what you're dealing with. It's not just a vague concept we throw around that you have this shadow thing somewhere attached to you. You'll find out where the 4 black hearts of Metatron implants are in your body and in your DNA template. These are the implants that are going to begin activation on the 27th of May, if we don't do something about that, because they are the receivers for the D13 reverse current of the flaming blue sword. And that's what's going to be running through our grids on May 27th of 2003. So we've been given these flame body technologies, much an advancement than we normally would have, in order to protect ourselves from being unduly affected by the blue flame, the blue sword frequencies that are going to be running through. So we'll start with the back to that. Well, that's only going to be there for a minute. The reason we're going to begin Dance for Love with the 15-dimensional time matrix is so we can get a little bit oriented before we start making the climb on the stairway to heaven. Because the first thing I would like to introduce in the Dance for Love program is the echo-maps of the God World Gates. So you begin to understand what exactly they are. Then we're going to explore more about Vecca codes and Eka codes, and there's a key to understanding Vecca codes and Eka codes, and it's one of the charts. I have to see what page it ended up on. But it literally begins to show you what we're working at to release what seals. Again, when we work with Vecca codes and Eka codes, we're not working with the dimensional codes themselves. We're working with something bigger, the radial body codes, which are the mathematical programs that control the magnetic repulsion zones, which are the radial body capsules. So we're directly going to the radial body capsules to activate there and to literally begin the process of manually releasing the radial body capsule levels so the body is capable of moving through gates where it can transmute to move through gates through the densities. Now, with the 15-dimensional time matrix is pretty familiar, I hope, to most people at this point. You have your 5 harmonic universes, primal sound fields, primal light fields. Where's that pointer? Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Okay. This one's tall. I can usually point and stretch, but this one's just totally out of my range. Primal light fields, primal sound fields, 12 dimensions. Okay. Now, we're going to move from there to the next one. We're going to see the same thing, but it's going to have a little bit more information on it. Well, you can't see the title. Okay, could you pull it down just so we can see the title and then pull it back up, please? Yeah. Time cycles and stellar harmonics. Now, these are the harmonic universes, right? They also represent cycles of time. This is called the Taran time cycle, the density 1 cycles of manifestation. The density 2 level, the Dora or soul level, is called the Andang time cycle. The density 3-1 is called the Unisai, just like the whole big center of creation is called the Unisai. That's called that way because you actually have to go all the way up through and then down back, creating the frequencies down back around the other side and pop back through. You go through D13, then back again twice through D8 to get out of the matrix. So it's called the Unisai after the central point of all creation is what that refers to, that word. Okay. Then you have in the dimensions 10, 11, 12, the density 4 is called the Aran time cycle. And the primal light field cycles are called the Banau time cycles. When we talk about the Rishi identities that are stationed in these levels of consciousness and these levels of matter, antimatter density, they're called the Banau Rishi, referring to their time cycle. It's kind of like they're named after each other. It's the Banau Rishi, and they call it the Banau time cycle. Now, just simply, a time cycle is literally, if we can go back to scalar standing waves and flashing on and off little pillars of light and sound that stay in one place but flash on and off. They're literally specific templates. The templates don't directly move, but consciousness, once it embeds itself within the form of entering the time matrix, it literally leaves portions of itself within as these little scalar templates. So the process of linear time is actually created as consciousness moves itself. It's the consciousness itself that's moving and expanding from one moment point, the smallest, to the next, to the next, to the next. Now, time is much more flexible than we realize. The past isn't gone. It still exists as a template that other beings right now are experiencing as their now moment. You have other cells right now experiencing 5 million years ago as right now. And if you went to visit them through a portal, 5 million years ago would be your right now. And if they came here, this would be their right now. Time is it not only curves, it spirals. It's like a spiraling template. The template has a series of dots, let's say, little scalar waves, that consciousness would progressively follow down to know itself in a linear time progression. And again, every one of us has 1,728 cells at least that are distributed throughout these time cycles, to just coming in. If you're here, it implies you have the rest of you scattered around in different time cycles. Now, actually, there's you know the Divine Blueprint one that's at the end, honey? Do we have the Mylar for that here? since I got into that, I might as well just show this one. It's not in sequence in this book. But there is a pattern, a geometrical pattern, a mathematical pattern, that is used for consciousness distributing itself within the time matrix cycles. And that is the exact same pattern that we use, the geometrical pattern that we use to run rainbow roundtables. It is a sacred geometry that is a very specific mathematical coding. Now, in your books, it's actually, I think it might even be the last page in Dance for Life. We stuck it in there. Yeah, it's the last page in Dance for Life in your things. Page 63. There it is. Now, in those time cycles, this is an example of a divine blueprint. All right, the divine blueprint for our race as it was seeded into the earth cycles. All right, this is the distribution of selves. So right now down here, you have 216 selves in round 1. These are called the cycle of the rounds, okay, the evolutionary rounds. And these are all simultaneously going on. What's interesting is we were taught that when we run round tables here, what we're doing is we're connecting with the other selves of us that are running them there as well. And we create what's called a trans-time frequency bridge. So we're healing the planet when we work with the rainbow round tables. We're healing them literally across the time frames by connecting through our DNA with our other selves that also know how to run round tables and those kind of things. Now when we run salutations, same way, we're affecting the other selves that we have. But it's interesting. We have 216 selves in round 4, which are the root races, 71,000 BC, going up into the future. Okay, they're not even finished yet. We're only on the 4th root race cycle out of 7 root races. So there's more to come. The other root races actually would take us naturally, if the planet wasn't stuck in this evolutionary wheel right now, it would actually take us up into the Terran cycles of density 2, where they would be part of the planet Terra, that when we look down here in density 1, Terra is the star that our scientists call Alcyone in the Pleiades. That is actually Terra. We are seeing Terra from here. And when you go to density 2, things look like they're moved around a little bit, and that thing that we call the star, Alcyone, is actually Terra. Same thing with Gaia. That's our density 3 counterpart to Earth, the density 3 level. Its oversoul is what we call the star Polaris when we look up in the sky, our North Star. That is actually Gaia. So it's interesting when you get out there. Things that we've looked at before, we see in different ways as we move up the densities. All right. So anyway, I just wanted to show you how those little time cycles running up the 15-dimensional matrix, how there's many, many complex patterns of this, but this is the core pattern that will be used. It's formed through the Cathara grid. It has a center point, and then it has the 12 circles, which correspond to the 12, the 12 Cathara centers on the Cathara grid. And there's very particular mathematical relationships. Excuse me, I have a cold. Particular mathematical relationships that run energy, or that these are almost like lines that consciousness follows to know its track of linear time. And you'd start with round 1, and then I think 2. Where's 2? I can't see the numbers too well. They're too far away. Yeah, that's left, right? Who's right? That's my left. Is that the one? Yeah. 1, 2. Where's the number? I'm trying to see where the number is. There it is. Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. So there's like a pattern of consciousness would cycle through these 3. There'd be 3 cycles in that round. And there'd be 3 cycles in that round. 3 cycles in this round, then 3 cycles in this round. So it's kind of interesting. This just helps you to know. Right on the bottom here it says each of the 12 planetary time cycles, this is 12 planetary time cycles, in one planetary 12 cycle, or cycle of the rounds, has 72 time vectors. 12-strand angelic humans, bless you, have one self in each of the 72 time vectors of the particle universe, planetary 12 cycle, and 72 selves in the corresponding anti-particle planetary 12 cycle. 72 cells times 12 planetary time cycles equals 864 cells per one planetary 12 cycle, plus 864 cells of parallel universe planetary 12 cycle equals 1,728 cells. All right. This template is also called our tribal shield. All right. That is our Maharic shield has this in it, this mathematical configuration. It is one of the mathematical geometrical patterns that our shield is built upon. So we all have one of these, and we're all connected intertime. Now, when you get into indigos, they have even more cells. They have a lot of cells focused in this 13th point in the middle. That point would correspond to the center of the Cathara grid, if you were to put these back on a Cathara grid lineup. The center point in a Cathara grid is between Cathara center 6 and Cathara center 7. It is a space where there's nothing. There's not a Cathara center there. That is the space that we'll learn is called the place of the Amaraya flame. All right? It is the space that, right here, when we were working with that little point I talked about last night, the Azure, that is the center of our Cathara grid. And it is, they often call it the throne of power, because that is where, literally, the Amaraya flame that we'll learn about today comes into the body. We won't get into Amaraya flame until we get into the shadow stuff, because that's all part of understanding, like, the flame body levels, and we need to get through the echomaps and things first. But I wanted you to see where, see the DNA literally plugs into this. This is our template, but it's also the pattern that we move through the 15-dimensional time cycles, or 15-dimensional time matrix through the time cycles. I think there's something else on that I wanted to say, too. I wanted to read. Let me see. Yeah. Over here. Oh, yeah, honey, can we pull that down again, please? Thank you. Up in the corner. I'd like to see the corner, please. Oh, it's not on that one. It isn't on that one. It's in the book. There's a little Cathara grid on the one in the book that actually shows you, it shows you where the Cathara grid plugs in to the divine blueprint. This is considered the divine blueprint. This tells you some things here, though. The angelic human 12-strand DNA template contains 6 fire-letter sequences from particle universe 12 cycle plus 6 fire-letter sequences from the anti-particle universe 12 cycle equals 12 fire-letter sequences. Now, one fire-letter sequence has 12 fire letters, so 12 fire letter sequences equals 144 fire letters from the 2 planetary 12 cycles. So we have, when we come into incarnation, it implies we have to take on 2 12 cycles. Sometimes you can combine them through a process that's called soul braiding, where you actually, instead of having to put that many of yourselves around, if you usually have had to ascend already once before, you have to be able to come in a normal 2 12 cycles, ascend back out, then come in with stronger fields and the full coding for the full time matrix. Then you can come in and begin to braid together some of those incarnations where you put them all in one body, and they would be like indigo bodies and those kind of things. It would hold more of them. They could survive full soul braiding. Soul braiding is like, let's say you're here, and you know how incarnation works. It's kind of funny. You say, well, I remember being a person, that died, 2,000 years ago. If you look at birth and death, birth is the point where your consciousness enters a pattern, right? It expands through the pattern until it reaches the end of the pattern's expansion potential. Then the consciousness leaves it. But the pattern is still a template, a living template of light and sound, while any of you are in the time matrix. Now, you could actually go back and reincarnate backwards if you wanted to. You could project your consciousness into fetal integration at the starting point. Now, this might be another self of you, another part of you might already have done this. So it's interesting. Our pasts are very interesting creatures, and so are our futures. We're actually, the indigo children, are actually not of this time cycle, naturally. We had to do certain alterations with our DNA templates and shut certain things off. We came from both the Gaian and the Terran time cycles, mostly the Terran time cycles, came in and birthed in a different way, like came through into the Earth cycles in a different way than does even an average human 12-strand person. It was a rescue mission because it was getting bad down here. And anyway, the incarnation process is fascinating because literally these patterns of identity, these are identity patterns. You literally choose before you come in as an avatar what types of experiences you want to have. You choose your parents. And for some of us that's like, I did? What was I thinking? I was having a bad day or what? We choose our parents, and often we choose them in order to teach ourselves or wake ourselves up most quickly. One of the biggest reasons a lot of indigos especially have had tough childhoods in one way or another, either with their parents, their family, or their peers, just not fitting in or being picked on and all that kind of stuff. Indigos had a wake-up commission. It was extremely important for indigos because they'd have to come in and go to sleep like everybody else. They needed to wake up faster. If they had the luxury of getting their support, their nourishment, their safety from outside sources, it would have been a deterrent to them being able to find the power within themselves to remember who they were. So very often, indigos choose, and a lot of humans do too, choose very, very challenging life experiences. They learn a lot through it. They learn how to handle the energy of anger, hurt, rage, pain. They learn how to, they learn, first of all, where things like hatred could come from, which is love turned inside out. How you could actually be so hurt by something that you could actually find the emotion of hate moving through you, and how to transmute it. So there's huge things that are learned through the negative experiences we often have when we're young. But indigos tend to choose them, and a lot of humans that are in service, that have come this time around to be in service, choose really rough early lifetimes, because we develop one thing mostly from all of that: strength. It either makes you or breaks you. You either find your ability to, if you can't turn out there, everybody's picking on you out there, there's no support out there, where do you turn? You turn inside. And you either go into self-destruct or you reach. Indigos will reach. And most of them, some of them will get caught up in the, drugs and alcohol addiction and stuff, trying to escape from it. But most of them are strong enough to feel that little pulse of the soul that begins to help them expand and be self-reliant. So a lot of times we will choose very, very challenging things. It can help to know that if you've had bad experiences in your past with family or siblings or anything, teachers, the people that you might consider the worst, like most negative people to you. And when you carry a feeling of toward a person, that means there's still a resistance. That means there's a pattern in you that long after they're gone, and might not even remember you if they were a teacher or something, you still carry a disharmonic scalar wave pattern in your field from it. So it's still harming you. To be able to love genuinely, it helps to be able to see that they actually agreed to help you. They played a role for you to learn something and to give something to yourself. So instead of hating them for what they were, and it's not just they gave it to you, you gave a lot to them too. It's very mutual. The lessons are mutual. But if we can learn to look back, particularly at the people that we feel most stuck with, the ones who, if we had mothers who abandoned us or fathers who abused us or whatever, if we can look back on that and realize two beings who do have an avatar level, even if neither of them were in touch with it, when they were in their avatar levels, made an agreement to work out some ideas. You had ideas you wanted to accomplish, and you wanted to grow strong. And there's a lot of little lessons within that strength. Sometimes somebody will model for you something that's so horrid, you know exactly what you don't ever want to be. So it helps you to find exactly what it is you want to be by giving the opposite to you. So you literally do an about face, go into rebellion, and make it a point to never ever be that way, when actually what you just wanted to do was be the other way in the first place. All right? If you can look backward at the people and circumstances that you found the most painful, now that pain, if it's still there, if you can still think back and it brings tears to your eyes, there's still a part of you that's in pain over it. Pain is disharmonic scalar waves in the body. It's an energy. You can release that a little bit at first. When we do shadow healing, a lot of that's going to come out, by the way. All right? The shadow is storing all of that stuff. All of those twisted scalar waves get sucked into the reversals. So our shadow body is built on all of these unhealed emotions, emotional imprints, which are dimension 2 template imprints. They're literally held in our bodies through the elemental kingdom, the elements that make up our bodies. Like the stuff even like iron and water and all those things that we're made of, particularly water. Water is a consciousness. It's conscious, and it holds imprint. Right now, the water holds the imprint of reverse Merkaba spin because of the planet, because of the planetary Merkaba. That's why you can learn to program water. You can use Vecca codes to clear water and to reset the right spin. Now, water can hold negative emotion in the body. It's taking it literally from the template and manifesting it into the water molecule itself, into the consciousness of the water. So your body feels the pain. You can reprogram that by, first of all, using the mind to realize, to let the emotional body know, that level of yourself know, that, wow, I'm starting to see that some of those horrid things that made me afraid of the universe, because this is what the early negative stuff tends to do. It makes you scared. You think you're in a hostile world. You think you're in an unsafe place, and you want to leave. So a lot of people actually try to jump out in their astral bodies, and they don't fully focus in behind their eyes. They hang out in their astral field, most of their consciousness, and they kind of like go through dazed here. You can learn to release this. When we begin working with shadow body technologies, particularly these, because they're very, very strong, you're activating very high levels of frequency in the body. It will very rapidly begin to heal and integrate your shadow body, which is what you need to do, because if you don't, the frequency that's going to come through on May 27th will be glad to take it for you. It will take your shadow body on a nice little tour down into a black hole. You don't want that. But there's going to be emotion that comes up. It may be all this wild and weird technologies we're learning here, but when you use them, it's going to take you right back into the heart of your humanness. You're going to feel the stuff release. If we can, from the beginning, realize that the thing we call emotion, see, the way we label things in our minds to ourselves has a huge degree of effect upon how we experience it. We learn to label certain things. Okay, we have this feeling, this sensation. We've learned to call it emotion. There's a whole bunch of those type of sensations. We have happiness, sadness. We put labels on them. Happiness is good, sadness is bad. We tell ourselves all these things, and all of a sudden, these quantities of energy, these experiences of energy, take on a life of their own, and they can feel like they're going to run up and run you over. When the emotional body kicks in and it's releasing, even if you're not just playing with shadow release stuff, if it's doing it on its own, you can feel this rush of energy come up, clouds your mind, messes with your chemicals, literally, chemically imbalances the brain circuitry, messes with your hormones. It can make you start to put on weight or to lose weight, and it can make you feel totally out of control in your body, where you begin to fight your emotions and try to stuff them down more and try to hold control. But that isn't going to allow you to heal, and it just makes the ego feel more frightened. If we can recognize that emotion, if we can relabel that thing we call emotion, that mysterious thing that comes up and bites us sometimes it makes us feel good, but sometimes it makes us feel awful. It makes us feel, where's our power? We're choosing to feel a certain way in reaction to an energy movement. If we can look at emotion itself as something that's joyful, but it's a movement of energy. Whose energy? Our energy. It's a movement of our energy in our Dimension 2 and Dimension 1 templates. If it doesn't feel good, it means it's in disharmonic relationship with the divine blueprint within you right now. If you can recognize that while you're in the clutches, instead of going and running for something to numb it or to distract you from it, or throwing it at somebody because you lost your temper, or going into hysteria. A lot of people, when clearing starts to happen, and it's going to happen with DNA, and at least here you'll learn how to do it, how to work with it instead of having it run over you. But we're just going to crying jags. It might come out in laughing jags, which are kind of funny. What the most important thing to do is get that energy out of the body and up. It needs to come up, come out, and go someplace positive, so it can be out of you. Because if you keep trying to suppress it, and if you use drugs or alcohol or tranquilizers or sleeping pills or any of that to try to numb it, you're just stuffing more bad energy down there. So if you wake up and you know you're having a bad day, we label that thing, uh-oh, this is a bad day, I feel yucky. You might have some aches and pains and you feel yucky inside emotionally. You can change how you label that day from the beginning. Instead of saying, when you catch yourself saying, well, another bad day, say, okay, what was it again? It's not a bad day. Oh, I'm having a day when I'm growing lighter. I'm clearing good today. Oh, that's good. This is good. Wow, I can feel myself healing. All this weird sensation that I used to label as yuck, that I used to say, I feel miserable, I'm grouchy, I'm bitchy today, I'm on PMS and it's not that time. When you get these feelings, if you choose how to label them, use your conscious mind, you will be amazed at how you can shift yourself. Even some of the worst of them. Now, there are some people that carry, and this is more common in men than women, there's a particular type of reversal that's in strand 2 in the male imprint. There's a whole bunch of women that are all messed up too, so don't worry guys, you're not alone. It's just a different kind. Some women have this too, actually, which is interesting, which tends to be if it's a more male soul incarnating in a female body, it still tends to run more male or mane energy. But the mutation that comes out is, they're all mutations in the DNA, the reversals, is the violence mutation. And what it does is create such a static buildup of energy in strand 2 and in the elemental bodies. It throws the chemicals out of whack in the body, and it comes out very often in balls of fire. It might come out verbally. It might come out, through the hands, where it's, women are getting more into this now. There's a lot of violent women out there too. But it can be terrifying when you even feel that urge come up in yourself, man or woman. We all have it to some degree, but with some men, it's really, really a problem because they've been really trying to clear this for, since Atlantis, because it was an Atlantean mess that was put in with all of the rest. If we can begin to understand that even that, a lot of people, if they call them psychotic or whatever, they go into the mental health thing to learn how to anger management and how to get control and this kind of thing. And if all else fails and they can't get their head to talk them out of it, they put them on drugs to stop it. But it's not going to stop it because what's causing it is the disruption in strand 2. We can even get to the point where we can develop our mental body enough, our ego enough, to recognize it when it's coming on and to begin to transmute it as it goes. If we can realize this mysterious quality of experience we call emotion is energy, just like the soul. It has a tangible structure. And we can learn to direct that energy, and when we do, we get more and more self-control without repressing ourselves, our emotional body. So there's a lot of things we're going to learn. I keep falling into shadow healing, but I'm going to get back to this so we can get through the Dance for Love program. This is the round table. And they call the people who participated in them not the knights, but the regents of the rainbow round tables. And it was called a signet council. Now, a signet is the official word for a stargate. They're called signets in the planetary shields, all right, or in the galactic shields or the universal shields. So it was signet councils of the rainbow round tables. They were the people who manually operated the stargates. They were the guardians of the gates, the gatekeepers. And that's what we're being trained to do again, because who were they? They were the human people, the human race and the indigo races. They were the appointed. They were created for that purpose. To the degree that the human and indigo DNA literally carries within it all of the mathematical, it's built on the mathematical programs of the gate systems themselves, planetary, galactic, and universal in this time matrix. We are the carriers of the gate keys. That's why we've been picked on a lot. That's why cosmic bullies from the black hole matrix like to get our bodies, because we're the keys to the living library. And that's why we're in the predicament we're in right now. But it's also the reason why we have the power to heal ourselves and to help get things back into the natural order. Okay, I think we can go to the next one. What is the next one? Oh yeah, this one. Okay, and this one, just a little squashed up Cathara grid. This is a Cathara grid. It's one of these, but there wasn't room on the diagram. It would have gone way off the page. So to show how it fits in 15-dimensional time matrix, here we have the first 12 that we saw before. Then you have the primal light fields, right? Which is actually the 13, 14, and 15. Cathara center 13, which it would be number 1 in the next grid going up. This one is called the primal Cathara grid. This one is the dimensional Cathara grid, and this one is the primal one. Because it's the template for the primal light and sound fields, where this one is the template for dimensionalized matter density systems. They're connected right here at Cathara center 12 in the dimensional system is the same place as Cathara center 13, which would be the one that's the template for the primal light field dimension 13. All right, so you have 13, 14, 15. Then there are 3 levels for each of these 3 levels of the sound fields. So there are 3 levels to the triadic level of the primal sound fields. This would actually be T1, T2, T3. When we get to the maps, we actually begin to label them with like T for triadic, P for polaric, and E for acatic. So you'd have the 3 levels of the triadic sound matrix, the 3 levels of the polaric, and the 3 levels of the acatic. So technically, there are 24 points to the full cosmic Cathara grid. This is how we plug into the cosmos. Now, it was interesting, too. This is the beginning, seeing this. Oh, look at that. They plug in together at this point, right? At the 12, 13 point. This is where we begin to understand what's going to become a very interesting series of diagrams that are called the echo maps of the God world gates. Now, in truth, this one going up here isn't the primal light and sound field that belongs with our 12-dimensional system. Ours is at an angle over here. There's another one that would actually come over here on this angle, 90-degree angle. All right. This one belongs to another 12-dimensional Cathara grid here, which is parallel, our parallel universe. All right. So this begins the building process. that will explain. Now, if we look at these things, first of all, we're looking at catharogrids. In a minute, I think we go through first in the sequence there, where we see how these are the stargates. We see where they're located and things like that. Then we'll see what it starts to look like when you start to put the bigger structures in. And this is where you get the echo-maps of the God world gates. It's where the gate systems, if this is one 12-dimensional time matrix, 12 dimensions of a 15-dimensional time matrix, and then over here would be the other the other catharogrid that would be the primal light and sound fields, that would be dimension 13, 14, and 15 in the sound fields. There's another set here. You would see how these build to form bigger and bigger universes. There's also something interesting that if you can look at each set of three, remember, see this when we have our diagrams, density 1 is like a circular, it's an egg, really, an energy egg, the radio body around density 1. When you look at a catharogrid, that would be like this, okay? You'd have the energy egg of density 1. Density 2, energy egg would be here. Density 3, energy egg would be here. Density 4, energy egg would be here. All right? Then density 5, energy egg, well, if we were going vertically, it would be the next three. And then you'd actually have energy eggs around the three levels of the primal sound fields as well. These energy eggs are the radio bodies, the universal level radio bodies that our whole existence and our planets and our galaxies take place within. So you're not just talking about flat scalar wave templates. We're talking about spherical, elliptical sphere-shaped eggs of energy that you start with the biggest one and work in from there. If you look at the first creation, which would be let's say the biggest egg, and from there and within there, all of the smaller ones were created. Every time you see a catharogrid, it implies, like one catharogrid, it implies 1, 2, 3, 4 energy eggs there, okay? So this is going to be important when we get into the God world maps. If we can understand from the beginning that it's not just flat stargates we're looking at, but we're looking at spheres. It's the science of the spheres. The spheres are built on the shields. The spheres are the form constant radio body bubbles that form by the counter-rotating spirals of Merkaba fields that form within the center of them. So there's this whole process of creation that started with the first one and progressively worked its way in. We're actually the little tiny universes at the center. What ascension is progressively expanding and loosening the boundaries and expanding back outward. And in that process, we get to see linear pulsations of time that give us a linear timeline that allow us to perceive the hologram in pieces, because it's actually all happening at once. But when we see it all happening at once, it just looks like light and sound patterns. And you can't like have a body physically and move through things. In order to have this whole hologram, it requires that we move our consciousness. It's actually syncopated. We don't even just kind of like drive the consciousness through these little spirals. It's syncopated. A part of the consciousness flashes on here, then closes out there, another part flashes on here. Through this whole process of our templates that hold our consciousness flashing off and on, we can experience three-dimensional holograms within all of those spheres. But if you think of the first sphere as the cosmic egg within which everything takes place, that gives you an easy concept to begin to understand the echo maps of the God world gates. Okay, what's the next one in there, honey? Yeah. Now, there's a little old 12-dimensional catharogrid again. But this time, it's used as the universal stargate map. This time, it has names of places that are relatively familiar on this planet. These gates, and what's interesting is these Cathara lines that connect them, these are actually conduits of frequency. So like gate 1, you could get to gate 3 this way, or you could go up to 2 and go over this way. These are pathways. They're caverns. They call them the crystal caverns. That are literally caverns, and they form in crystalline form. Some of the crystal bed of planet Earth and other planets and stars actually are the physical manifestations of these. And if you find the right caverns, you can actually get to the place physically where the gate exists. What's really interesting is when we first started, it was in Kauai last year when we did a workshop there, and they were beginning to reveal the stuff on the crystal caverns and explain to us about these caverns. Now, I've been taken in them, but I never knew what the heck it was as a child. I was taken down into places I didn't know where the heck it was. All I knew is I got picked up by spaceship and taken to some place I didn't know where it was. I found out later it was Kauai, Hawaii, because there's an opening there. right? And they took me in to these caves, and I remember the path. After a while, they'd take me and drop me, and they'd let me walk it. And because they wanted me to learn to find my way down through them. And there were these caverns, and there were certain ways you had to go, and it was scary, like, caves and stuff. But there would be a shift in frequency. You could feel it, and all of a sudden, what looked like scary caves, you could see little twinkles, like in the rock. And the twinkles would get more and more, like, pronounced, where all of a sudden it was crystal. And literally walk through a frequency modulation zone where the cave turned into something else. It turned into a crystal cavern. Well, it was really funny when we were learning about these things in Kauai, when they started to tell us about these, because these are part of, if we're going to actually get to go through one of these things, we've got to realize you have to go down into the earth to get to the stargate that's at the core of the earth. That's one of the first things we do. So a lot of people might have dreams right now of being taken down into caverns. And this is why. We're being trained on the astral of how to access these. But when we were getting the information, and it was new information, it wasn't published or anything, getting the information on the crystal caverns, one of the persons that was following the work, she happened to get an invitation right before that to go on this amazing discovery in Chihuahua, New Mexico, or Mexico, not New Mexico, in Chihuahua, Mexico. They found these awesome selenite crystal caverns with crystals, selenite crystal rods that were massive. You'd see, she let us use, on one of our, I don't know if we have it there, but on our Templar course book, we have a picture of her in her little miner's hat, and she's like this big, and the crystals are like this big. It's awesome. And she brought the pictures to actually, and she didn't know that we were going to be doing this stuff. She just happened to bring them and said, "What do you think about this?" And I just cracked up. I said, "Thanks, guys." Because what she'd done, she'd been guided to bring us the physical representation, the photographs that actually proved and demonstrated what we were talking about. When you get into the inner earth places and some of the main crystal caverns, the crystals are even bigger than these massive things. They're like the size of, well, like the Twin Towers and things, literally, massive selenite crystals. They were the crystal technologies that you hear in the Atlantean legends. Oh, does somebody have pictures of them? You got the pictures of them. Oh, excellent. That would be, we don't have them on Mylar either. Shoot. Could we pass them? If they go, if we make sure they get back, can we pass them around? Whose are they? Oh, is it okay to pass them if they come back? Okay, anybody that wants to see the crystals that we're talking about. Okay, there's some pictures of them here. They'll take a little bit to get them over that side, but they're coming. We weren't planning on talking about crystal caverns, so we didn't have pictures of them with us this time. But anyway, when it comes back to stargates, there are physical crystal caverns that connect them, that would follow in frequency these lines. So on the universal level, now that would be on the planetary level, this is the universal one in 12 dimensions of our 15-dimensional time matrix. And if you look at where, now these are consolidated points of frequency, they are the control centers that hold all the dimensional patterns, right? Like the particular mathematics for each dimension. So again, Stargate 1 holds the complete mathematical patterning for dimension 1 in this 15-dimensional matrix. Every little tiny code, every piece of mathematics. That means that everything that comes in here, every life form, every species that was ever created, it means that this Cathara Center, this Stargate, would actually hold the full spectrum of every piece of everything that had a piece of itself in dimension 1. So they're massive, where we have Cathara centers that are actually patterned after them, which means we hold the codes, the mathematical codes, in our bodies that correspond with everything that has ever been created in this time matrix, in our particular time matrix, which is pretty awesome. That's why we're the living library. That's why any race could be regenerated through the human genome, because it carries the core imprints that everything else came out of, plants, animals. And that genome matches the patterning on a microcosmic level of the macrocosmic stargates. It's why humans and indigos, when their DNA is working properly, have the ability to have full reign mastery of. Humans have it for the 12 dimensions, or the 4 density levels, and indigos can actually move through completely out into sound expansion, up into some of the other ecosystems, and come down. We were created as masters, as avatars and ascended masters. That's what our race was. It was a form. The human form is a form that, when we were sitting up there being avatars and ascended masters, said we need a form that can take us down there, that once we get down there, we can use it to heal planets, to heal stargates, to heal beings. And that's why and how the human form was designed. It was designed to do that. We've been lied to down here for many thousands of years now. We're told we're lowly, sinful, pathetic creatures. We're told about these wonderful beings called angels that are so much better. Oh, and they were never human. Yeah. Well, the things that are calling themselves angels these days, and for the last 25,000 or so years, they're no angels. They're from the black hole system. Now, there was once upon a time a species of guardian beings that actually did have wings. They were called the Rio Patoria, and they were of the Seraphi, like the Seraphi founders races, and they were feathered hominids that were bird people. Now, they were good guys, but we were the true angels. The human race and the indigo races were the angels. They were the angelic races. All of these fables that have been given to us have been literally, there's almost a malicious twist in the way the stories have been created and messed with to give to us. Where we end up is because the ones who created these stories, the fallen races from the black hole matrix, they used to be angelic races once upon a time before they fell. They were like us in their way. They're, different structure, but we all came from the same place. But they were so jealous and so much blaming other people for the choices they made that got them into what they got into, that they have a hatred for humans. They like to hurt humans. They like to put one over on humans. So the stories they told, there's a malicious twist if you look at it. You're the pathetic, lowly animal things. There's a race of beings that are high angels, archangels and things. Oh, they'll save you. It's like they put it right back in our face and went, yeah, because there's a hostility that they harbor for us because they want what we have. And they had what we have, and they destroyed it within themselves. So, anyway, back to stargates. Okay, so I begin to see where the stargates are located. These are what were used in the ancient days, and they are what are used still in the ancient days that are going on right now, and in the future days that are going on right now. You would literally, like the things that fly around in spaceships that are, coming visiting once in a while here, they use these type of maps to be able to know where the interface levels are, but boy, they're real intricate when they use them. They know it's like a topography map of a planet or of the ocean floor or something if you were, going to do a boat. But this is the beginning of understanding the interface systems. Now, it's easy when you're just dealing with the 12 major ones, but there's tons and tons of little tiny galactic gates, planetary gates, galactic gates, solar system gates that all connect to other gates, and you have to know the gate interfaces so you can get from the planetary to the galactic to the universal if you want to run these gates, right? Yeah. Now, beings that come here that are from the higher systems tend to not use spaceships. They're beyond that. They don't need that kind of technology. They use Merkabas. They turn themselves in the light, pop up, say hello, and then go back again. Sometimes they will use spaceships if you have a commission that you forgot because you fell asleep when you came in here. But if you have a soul contract to wake up as with a major guardian contract of some sort, they will come in sometimes with spaceships that they manifest. They literally manifest a part of their consciousness as the spaceships. It serves as a buffer to a human or an indigo, that they can take a human or an indigo through some of the portals. They can't take them too far, but they can take them temporarily. It's almost like a sealed environment, like when we send people to the moon, they have to wear spacesuits with the helmets and things so they can deal with the atmosphere. The reason for some of the guardian level interactions with spaceships on our planet that have been happening in the last number of years has to do with humans, as a general rule, can't be taken fully through in Merkaba right now because of the DNA distortions. So they need a buffer field that can get them through, and they can only go through some of the lower ones. Now, they had to mess with my DNA, and I'm glad they did. I went through several years of DNA healing where they were literally clearing out the mutations in the DNA so they could at least get me through to inner Earth for training. Because there were certain things, if I was going to be a speaker and I was going to be trained on the CDD plates, I had to be able to hold them. And what they did not want to do was bring the CDD plates fully here, because every time they get on Earth, somebody raids something and grabs one, because they are activating devices for the stargates. You can manually open them if you get a hold of a CDD plate as the activator and something called a shield, which looks kind of like a hubcap, but it isn't. There are a manual set of tools that run on interdimensional frequency that can be used in emergencies to operate the crystal pylon temples of inner Earth, the inner ecosystem, that are connected to our stargates that modulate the frequency in our stargates. So we could literally open and close the gates. Those devices have been taken primarily off planet. They try to take them off planet, but they can't take them too far. They can take them to inner Earth because the coding is still similar. But if they took the CDD plates, let's say, to the Sirius system where they were originally created, they would actually have their coding changed, so they wouldn't be compatible. You couldn't run them on Earth anymore. They have to stay within the same frequency. Anyway, back to Stargates. Stargates are important if we're going to talk about personal healing, we're going to talk about spiritual development, because ultimately, what are you going to work on spiritual development for? So God likes you? I mean, what is the motivation that people decide they want to get spiritual for? Usually it's because their life is so, like, yucky and they really can't stand it anymore. And they figure, well, nothing else worked. So I guess, let's try that. Some people are born spiritual because they went through that in other lifetimes. They just felt close to, they knew there was a spirit, they could feel it in them. So they do it for love. But what is the end of that? Like, what is the, not the end because there's never an end, but if you look at what you might move yourself through to become spiritual or to explore your spirituality or to get more spiritual, get closer to God is what most people want to do. They want to get closer to God. Some have reasons because I want my power. I don't have any power, and if I'm nice to God, God will like me and be a nice, good parent and maybe let me have the kind of experiences I like, like a nice house, a nice car, a nice husband and wife, kind of thing. There's a lot of practical reasons why people get spiritual, and usually it's because they want something. All right? Now, average people. Indigos and full humans tend to have different motivations. They feel a calling inside. They feel a little rumbling somewhere left in there that spirit was always a part of them and that there's something like a nagging thing you forgot to do. Well, we forgot to do something for the last 25,000 or so years. Right? A little nagging thing. Fix the planet. Right? Oh, yeah, that. So our souls move us forward from the higher levels, whatever they have to push us through. And it's like your soul, your oversoul, and your avatar, it'll use feathers. It might, if that doesn't work, it will use 2x4s. If that doesn't work, it'll use hammers, sledgehammers. And if that doesn't work, you'll probably have a near-death experience. Because the near-death experience, what it does is it creates a bardo, which is the separation of the D3 mental body from the D2 and D1 parts of the body, and it's brought up into density 2, into what's called the soul body. It can only be partially done well right now because of the shadow body. But there's a few reasons why near-death experiences happen. One of them is because the soul has been trying to get in touch with its parts down here because it knows it has something to do there, and the parts aren't waking up, and they're just, running around amok in their lives. And no matter what, feathers didn't work, 2x4s didn't work, sledgehammers didn't work, and even postcards from the edge didn't work, so it's time. Right? Now, most times it's not that. It's not because the personality down here isn't listening. Most times it's because the personality has a spiritual element to begin with and is integrating, but it's trying to reach upward, and the soul level is trying to reach downward for integration. It is one of the fastest ways to trigger rapid soul integration because it pulls the consciousness up into D5, then slams it back down in the body. And when it gets slammed back down in the body template, it has a D5 resonance with it. The consciousness takes that with it temporarily, like a spark of D5 energy, and it hits strand 5 and 4 on the way down. So it opens a little bridge between strand 3, 4, and 5, which means a bit of communication between dimensions 3 in density 1, and 4, the astral, and 5, the soul plane, what's called the soul plane, can take place. So that whole experience of seeing the tunnel part, the dark part, is the process of going through the void that would be, all right, this is density 1, right? Remember the radio body capsule that creates the magnetic repulsion zone? It's the experience of the consciousness going through the void is the tunnel, and when it comes out into the next density, it's seeing the light. It's beginning to see the light. So that's what that whole experience is about, and it is real. Doctors and stuff say, oh, that's not a real thing. Well, it is a real thing. So, it's interesting how things I never thought I was going to talk about in a workshop pop up. I don't plan to talk about near-death experience. Anyway, we can go, I guess we can read these. Yeah, we'll read these quick. We have Stargate 1, universal level Stargate 1, connects into parallel Earth, but its home base is in a place called Theta Orion. It's in the Orion system. That's another word for Theta Orion is Trapezium Orion. And it's a cluster, I believe, of 4 primary stars, like 4 main stars and some others. And it's in Orion's sword. Okay, it's near Orion's sword, I believe. All right. 2, it connects with the inner Eka Earth. And Epsilon, the side of Epsilon that's nearest Andromeda. But Epsilon is in the Eridanus constellation. Look at this one, Stargate 3. The main Stargate 3 is in Earth. It connects into the Venus Galactic Gate and into Alpha Centauri. But Earth is the universal Stargate 3. That's why there's so much attention has been given here. Now, go over here, Stargate 4, which is the first density 2 Stargate, our sun. And it connected originally into Nibiru. And it's actually connected artificially still into Nibiru. Now, our sun, if you look at these, there's a pillar here of Stargates and a pillar here. 3 and 4. If you were, let's say, if this was a cathargrid hanging in the sky, and let's say you wanted to mess with it, and you flip this around, you could actually twist the whole thing around, couldn't you? Because these are the anchoring rods for the pillars of these gates. You have basically 3 pillars of frequency. These are frequency pillars with the cavern links between them. These 2 spots are the last gates in a chain of gates that have been infiltrated as the black hole system has been progressively, for millions of years now, trying to take this time matrix down into their matrix. So this is why all the attention is on Earth. Our planet and our sun are very, very important within this 15-dimensional time matrix. Not only that, look when we get up to here. Gate 5, Alcyone in the Pleiades. Remember what I told you about Alcyone? It is Tara, the density 2 counterpart to Earth. So here we go again. Another major Stargate, Universal Stargate 5, is in Earth's soul body. We go over here. Sirius B is Stargate 6, also connects into Procyon and Sirius A. 7, Arcturus, also connects to Omega Centauri. Now right here, remember I talked about the center point of the Cathara grid? That's actually the center point, mathematically, of the Cathara grid. There's not a Cathara center there. This is a point where the Amaraya flame enters into the Cathara grid. And there's a very interesting set of overlaps. There's a point here and a point here that become very significant in creation and in running frequency, as we'll find out as we learn more about the echo maps of the God World gates. Now, Stargate 8. Remember, each of these gates, this is the dimension 1 gate, the dimension 2, 3, 4. So these are dimensional gates. Dimension 8 gate is, universal gate, is Mintaka Orion, which is in Orion's belt. Right, this one's in the sword and this one's in the belt. Also connects into Gaia, which is Polaris. All right. So again, you have Gaia and Tara. But this isn't a direct one. This is just a link. Okay. But the Mintaka Orion is the main gate. There are problems with this gate. That's why right now in the graphs we showed yesterday, where we showed the Kiyoshe flames coming down, they don't cross in through here. They don't go this way. The flames don't come down. They avert that, and they go down this way, because there's a lot of problems there because of the black hole issue. If this gate was completely reversed, it would send frequencies out that would eventually monadically reverse the whole template. That's what monadic reversal would be. It's the, like in the DNA template, it would be the 8th strand gets complete reversal. And because, if you remember in the 15-dimensional time matrix, so you go up, you go past 8, you go all the way up to 15, then you come back down the other side through 13, then back through 8 to get out. All right. If this one gets fully reversed, the set of seals and shields behind it also gets reversed, and they will overpower this from its parallel. So, anyway, we don't need to worry about reversals quite yet. We have Gate 8, Mintaka Orion. Gate 9, Merak Andromeda. Gate 10, this right here is called the Cradle of Lyra. That's where all life in this time matrix was seated. We have Gate 10, was in Vega Lyra. We have Gate 11 is a place called Avion Lyra, and its moon was called Avalon. That's where the stories were, Avalon and Camelot. You're going to find where these words come from. All right. Now, Avion, that's its actual name, is, I believe, the star they call Shiliak. I don't know how to pronounce that exactly, but Shilak or Shiliak Lyra. I think it's Shielak on the charts, on the star charts. And then, the big one, Aramatena, Stargate 12, in Lyra, which is what they call the double-double in Lyra. Okay, the stellar body they call the double-double. So it's in that system. This, the Cradle of Lyra, is where if you're going to come into density, you come into the primal light fields, then you have to come down through the gate system. To get down here, you have to pass through the gate system down here. Now, some beings will take this path, okay? That was the path, I believe that was the blue one, wasn't it? The blue one that came, yeah, it was the blue one. Some will take the path of the violet, which will come down this way. No, it doesn't go through, this way. Some would take the path of the gold. Some people are keepers of the blue flame, some are keepers of the gold flame, and some are keepers of the violet flame. Because they will take on what activates in their templates when they come through, and what will activate in their DNA, is the frequency of the path that they took. Now, as they're coming down through the universal gates. So humans and indigos both fit into those categories. They are keepers of the flames, and some of them come in as the flame holders, which are beings that have extra magnetic codes in the DNA that will actually be able to anchor the whole sets of frequencies from all of the gates to transmit them to the other flame keepers, who will then transmit them and transduce them down into the Earth's grids. So this was part of our mission. Living was our job. Because when we were alive on the planet, we were the flame keepers. We could run the primal light and sound fields and the Maharata D12 divine blueprint back into the template. That's what we were here for. We didn't come for a picnic, and we didn't come, for goodness sakes, to fight wars. What we came to do was simply run the divine blueprint and the primal light and sound fields back into Earth's template to fix it. And it was really an easy mission, the technical part of it. What wasn't easy was dealing with the black hole people. So, anyway, now indigos take a different path. It is right now because of the distortions. There's distortions in Tara's grids in gate 5, distortions in the solar grid in gate 4. So anything that comes down through here and hits this gets twisted reversals. There's distortions in here, but if you look at the distortion series, this path, if you take the violet path, you get lots of distortions coming down. Arcturus is partially reversed. Vega is partially reversed. That shields the templates of the gates themselves, because the planetary shields or the star shields are. The sun is 2/3 reversed. The sun fields are 2/3 reversed. So the indigos come in trying to take the path of least reversal, so they have the least amount that they have to clear, so somebody can get on planet here and run enough frequency to help everybody have the frequency that they can start healing themselves with. They come down through what's called the path of Amareya. They come down 12, 9, 6, 3. 6 has part of the Sirius B template has fallen, but there's a part of it that's completely clear, and there's a part of Mirach, Andromeda, that's completely clear. So they pick up the reversals from Earth once they get here, but that's only density 1 level reversal. They still have enough clarity in the template up here that they can easily purge it and clear it. And when they can do that within themselves, they affect the race tribal shield. So the more indigos that can clear their templates, the more frequency runs in to help humans clear their templates. So it's there's a big mission going on, just for the fact that all these people are here on the planet right now. But all of the mechanisms are behind the scenes. They're hidden from direct view. And unless you realize these other dimensions of reality are taking place right here, right now with us, life, you lose the magic. You don't even see that life is a magical thing. It's a high order thing around it. There's a big mission going down. We're all a part of it. People walk around thinking they're useless and life's a bummer because, what are we here for? Science has the nerve to teach us that nothing really has a purpose. It just exists to survive, and then eventually it's extinct. Why bother? If there is no meaning to life, if the fact that you're here is just because pond scum collided with something else and decided to grow feet, and you happen to be the end product of that, but nobody created you for a reason. There is no creator that has a purpose for any of this. It's just creation bouncing off itself. With all we go through, from the time we're little to the time we get big and have all these dreams and watch how hard it is to make them come true, why in the world would you even bother? Why survive? I think we would have all the species would have committed suicide a long time ago if it hadn't had a deeper knowledge that there is a meaning here. Because with all the stuff we go through and all the struggle we go through, if that's all it was, just so you could survive, I've got to the point before I was awake where I said, just take me home, wherever that is. And I believe that there's more there. I've felt it, I've experienced it. And if it's like science says, that it's all in my imagination, right? Well, fine. Then I'll just be dead when I'm dead. But that's fine. That's better than this, I wasn't suicidal. I just had a love for life. And life wasn't here. All that was here was struggle and hardness and pain and those kind of things. A lot of people don't understand. People that get suicidal, they said they have a death wish. No, they don't. They have a life wish. They feel so miserable here and so dead here that they can't express. None of the things that matter to them seem to be able to be something that they can make happen. It is a life wish that motivates people to commit suicide. It's not the right thing to do, because you just end up having to take on that same pattern again. It hangs you up karmically. It slows your evolutionary cycles. If because you're supposed, every body has a purpose. You come into every one of your 1,728 cells. They have a purpose that affects the whole. You as an avatar. Each one came in to learn certain things and to accrete certain frequencies, to bring certain frequencies into their own template, and to give the earth certain frequencies. Every one of us here, it's like the earth has been waiting for every one of us that's human or indigo, that's born on this planet, had a commission to bring a piece of frequency in to fix the divine blueprint, to put it back into the template. So people that kill themselves and things like that because they can't figure out how to make it more alive here, they have to do a kind of like a consciousness jump, take their template again, and go into reincarnation again here until they give the gift that they came to give. We all came to give Earth a gift. And in return, Earth gives us a gift. It gives us the frequencies back that allow us to progressively heal and go through the gates. Anyway, back to the gates. I think we're done with this one. Yeah, so these are the 12 primary stargates. What gets fun is when you see where these connect into planetary ones and where they are. Because all of a sudden you say, okay, so like if I want to go into the universal gates, we have it lucky, by the way. Other planets aren't in like one of the universal level stargates. You would have to go through galactic ones to get to a planet that had at its core a universal stargate before you could enter the big system that will take you up through the densities. We have one right at our core, Earth's core, and so does the Sun. The Sun has one at its core. I think we can go on to the next one. What is the next one? Yes?
Would you say that it's because Earth has its own that chart and so many of its little siblings and other subtle cousins are on that chart? Is the reason why things are so bad here?
It's the reason why this is a hotbed of activity, like wars and things like that. Yeah. And it's also because this time matrix it's an exception to the rule. Most time matrices don't have black hole issues. Black holes aren't natural creations. They were unhappy accidents that need to be healed. And because the black hole system interfaces with ours and it's trying to pull our system in, and Earth, Terra, and Gaia show up in the main universal stargate charts, it's because of that there has been a history of war on all of those planets. If you look at Earth, Terra, and Gaia, you have Earth, and then its density 2 level would be its soul body, right? The semi-etheric matter soul body would be Terra, and its etheric matter density, Gaia, over soul body. There has been more on every one of those planets. There's been more in this time matrix for the last 250 billion years, ever since the fall. And that was the fall. There's been so many falls after the fall. But the thing is, if time is simultaneous, this gets a little interesting. If time is simultaneous, that implies that the creation is taking place now, every moment. The fall is also taking place now, at every moment. And it really depends on what planet Terry templates line themselves up with frequency-wise and what people line themselves up with frequency-wise. What version of past and future you will know is the real one. Because in truth, they're all happening. It gets really confusing when you start to play with simultaneous time. You start to realize you can move backward and forward in time and sideways and diagonally in all sorts of different ways. And it gets, you can change the past. Yes, you can. In fact, we do continually. Every time we have a moment here, we move from one moment to the next, we send something forward and backward. We change the past and make the past, manufacture the past and the future continually. And there are a whole bunch of probabilities, different probable lines, little flash lines, different flash lines that you can follow as time cycles. And you will see different things. There's one timeline of Earth where the stargates didn't open because of the mechanical problems at Earth's core this time. And this planet imploded, and I believe that was in 2000, I forget, it's a long time since I looked at the facts. About 2,000 years from now, I think it was, that literally this planet imploded, and all life was destroyed on it. There is another timeline. Now, we are out of alignment now, vibrationally, with that timeline, because the gates opened. They had a lot of help opening. The Guardians kind of pushed, frequency-wise, because they didn't want to see us meet that destiny. That destiny would also affect them, because they're directly connected to us. It would have caused a chain reaction if this planet imploded. It would have taken out part of the Pleiades and part of the Sirius system, and that would have affected even all the way up to the ecosystems. So, yeah. It's not going to be one of those, is it? Oh, please. I love this guy. He comes up with great ones. Are you a scientist?
Using some Star Trek symbology, if there was no black hole issue here, and we were just experiencing for the sake of experiencing, what would be the prime directive in this time matrix for light to experience itself?
The prime directive?
Yeah, if we're experiencing multiple paths, multiple creatures, and multiple probabilities, it would be a mass frequency retrieval eventually. What would be the point here?
Free will creation was the prime objective. Yeah. Well, actually, free will creation based upon love, because that was really what this time matrix was founded on. But it wasn't defined as love because Source knew nothing other than love. So it didn't say, okay, well, I could take love, I could take hate, I could take war. Source was love, is love, and it desired to create a creation framework where free will creation, where it could really just kind of like be more of itself and experience itself in that way. Joy and harmonious relationship were the original objectives for this matrix. There were, once individuation took place and you had a bunch of founders races, 3 primary founders races for this time matrix, and you found them sitting around going, okay, we can create. Well, first let's figure out how to create matter density. Okay, we can do that. So they figured out how to create bodies using the same framework. I mean, they're manifestations of the face of God, races that, okay, we're down here, we got this far, we know we're the one, but now we're here, what can we do? Once they realized, see, once you create something and label it, it implies there's something other than it. If you say, I create this and this is love, it immediately implies an opposite. So when love was created, so was hate. All right? It became an interesting thing. And then it also became interesting with the founders' races. Who was going to push how far? How far could you play with the rules of creation that set this in motion in the first place? How far was too far? What would happen if you did too far? That was a question that set this whole set of experiences in motion. The Elohai and the Seraphi races and the Brahmarama races were very curious. What would happen if something, let's say, went wrong or went out of whack? I mean, the creation is this, it's supposed to work this way, it works beautifully. Is there anything else? There was a group of them that decided to try, to see, okay, well, we're supposed to combine this template this way and this way. What if you bent it just a little more that way? Would it do anything harmful? No. Okay, that worked out. So they're having fun being creator gods. They were creating races first. They were creating new templates, new types of races with their own gene code. They were their own templates. They were using their own templates. And then they were getting warned from the ones in the higher up system saying, certain things don't work. They really don't. They make messes. We already did that in a different place. You don't want to do that again. Because there were other falls in other matrices. Not too often, but once in a while. And the founders here were warned not to do that, but they kept playing. That's how the Anu Elohim mutated themselves to the point where they couldn't hold D12 consciousness, and they became warlike. And the Seraphi did the same thing. So all of a sudden we had warmongers sitting up there in Lyra, fighting with each other, trying to blow up stargates. And they blew up Stargate 12, which destroyed the divine blueprint in this time matrix. And it had to be reset again from the higher echo worlds. So it's really interesting. It's like, it always comes back to, did God mean it? Did God create it this way? Is God really making this happen? If God creates everything, this is the face of God. That means God wants those guys there, wants them to be fallen races, wants them to do evil, terrible things. That means that the things that are doing evil, terrible things and creating lots of pain for people, God's doing that too. So that means they're characteristics of God just like we are. Not exactly, all right? It would be really miserable, I think, if we were to come to a final thing, okay, we're at one with God, and we realize that God had a nasty streak. Those people that torture people and eat them, and horrid things. Think of the Silence of the Lambs movie and stuff, right? People that do stuff like this. These are faces of God too. They are, but they're twisted faces of God. That is not a reflection of the true natural characteristics of God, but it is a potential of what pieces of God can turn into when they lose their direct connection to the rest of themselves. It's like a split personality fragment of God. People that act that way, they need healing. And sometimes the only healing is for eventually for them to implode themselves and their templates to go back to what they'd originally fallen from. Anyway, back to Gates. Aha, here we go. Oh, these are so fun. Can we come over here a little bit first, honey, so we can deal with this one? This is only the beginning. You know, I'm surprised I kept my sanity when I was making the drawings for these. It was so funny because it started with one Cathara grid, a little one, because I figured this might get big, right? I had all these yellow 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper taped together. I had to keep putting more on and more on. It's like this big thing that was like draped all over the table. You had to roll it up when you were done. And then I broke them down so you could put pieces of them on, on little sheets so we could look at them. But it was amazing to watch this thing grow when you took the one Cathara grid and then followed the formula of their connection and saw what they did. Now, the first, whoops, I keep turning this on and off. The first thing, this is again our 12 dimensions, right? Our 12 stargates. Okay, can you guys see over there? I think I'm going to try to stand over here on this one. Let's see. All right. Are you all right, Dan, with me here? Yeah? Thank you. Okay. These are universal gates, remember, okay? We still have smaller systems that go down into our galaxy and our solar system and down into our planet. We'll get to those later. But the echo maps of the God world gates, we saw in the other one, we saw the names that were given for our universal stargates. So we know that when we look up in the sky, we can at least say, point, and say, oh, okay, that's gate, whatever. Now, these gates connect to the primal light and sound fields that literally are the radio body capsule that are inside the radio body capsule of our 15-dimensional time matrix. The angles here have to do with literally the angular rotation of particle spin within the systems. So there's actually a 90-degree shift. Okay, this would, if this was a circle, this would be. Well, it depends on which direction you go, but yeah, it's 90-degree shift from here to here in a circle. That would be 180. That would be a full round, yeah. 90-degree shift, angular rotation of particle spin between our primal light and sound fields and our dimensional fields. It's these angular relationships that actually allow for the movement of consciousness, the movement of scalar waves within the shields to form a three-dimensional holographic projection. So the angles of things are important. There's a 90-degree shift in angular rotation of particle spin between every dimension, and then there's a 45-degree shift between one density and another. All right. So all of these shifts become significant when you're playing with Merkaba vehicles, because you want to know what way to point your little pyramid hat, right? When you have the Merkaba spiral on top, okay, what way do I point my axis? What way you point your axis will literally determine, when gates are open, what gate you end up going through. So there are things, now you don't have to, that we won't get to a point where we have to manually say, okay, I'm going to point it forward, I'm going that way, right? We don't have to do that. Using the symbol codes. The symbol codes themselves, every gate in the whole universal structure, in the cosmic structure, has a core key symbol code. There would be a symbol code for each gate. You would simply use the symbol code, and possibly its tone, that would activate it in your shields, and you would be able to pass the gate. So you don't have to have all sorts of, wacky things, did I forget my bottom Merkaba, where's my top pointed? It doesn't get confusing like that. You don't have to remember spin ratios once you get it working right. Once you get the spin ratio set, it does help to know what the spin ratios are right now, because we've been told they're supposed to be a certain thing, and they're not. And that's being used to trick us into using the Merkabas the wrong way. But it's nice to know that we don't have to, once we know what it is, and we know how to fix it and get it back to the right thing, we don't have to worry, run around with like an intercosmic calculator in our pocket to try to figure out what speed we're supposed to run the top and what speed we're supposed to run the bottom and where we're supposed to point the tip, that kind of thing. The symbol codes do this for us. So these are very, very powerful technology. The symbol codes are also used to run the crystal pylon temples in inner Earth, these massive selenite crystal rods. Literally, you would transmit them through the palms in order to do all sorts of things with them. There's one silly show on, I think it's called Lex, where they have the key to the spaceship. That is totally wacky. I swear Hugh Hefner wrote that show. It's just done really, really kind of tacky. But it had one really cool, anybody hasn't seen it, it's a show about these people on a spaceship, kind of rebels running around with this stolen spaceship, I believe, or something. But the spaceship has a key, and it's a key that he holds in his body, in energy. And he has to, to drive the spaceship, he sits in a particular chair that has the pad that receives it. And it has to come from him. And he can pass the key to other people energetically. It's a lot like that. All right? And it gets to the point where you don't even have to use hands. You can project them just directly through intent. There are literally vehicles that can be driven that way. It's a technology of the future and of the ancient past. It's a technology that's been a long time since it's been here, but that's really our heritage. So there's a lot of neat things that we're going to discover as we move forward to become who we used to be. Anyway, back to Yates. Okay. Alrighty. Now, this gets interesting, confusing too. See these little funny little dotted lines, and here's a solid one that makes a little bubble shape here. And there's another one that makes a bubble shape here. These are actually the radial body capsules for each density level. They extend up and through each other, so it's not as simple as like drawing a circle here and drawing an oval here and an oval here. If you're going to show the fact that these are egg-shaped capsules, actually they're akasha-shaped capsules. The akasha teardrop shape? Well, three-dimensionally. Make that like a bubble or like a balloon where you pull the tip up. That's what these reality fields are shaped like. That's literally what our universe is taking place within, and then there's a bigger one around the next density up and a bigger one around that. We have these in our bodies, too, our radial bodies. We have these levels in our radial bodies. What's interesting about this begins to show us something. Okay, we have the regular Cathara grid, right? Each one of these is the dimensional program in the Stargate, universal level. What are these little guys? See these funny little guys that are on the crossbars? There's a couple of these. These things are called locks. The locks are the locks between the density levels. There are dimensional locks, little dimensional locks, that there would be a little dimensional lock between dimension 1 and 2. Now, if you remember our chakras that we talked about, where we talked about seed crystal seals and star crystal seals, these in our bodies would correspond to locks. Okay? The dimensional locks would be little ones. There'd be like a little seal there, which are like crystalline groups of Kelon codes that block frequency. So they keep the dimensions separated. So they keep, and these would keep the densities separated from each other. The little dimensional locks are the smaller ones. The bigger ones that run the crossbars, this one's between dimension 3 and dimension 4, which is between the highest point or the resonant tone of density 1 and the beginning base tone of density 2. So these are density locks, these big ones in the center points. This one's between density 2, which the top one is D6, and density 3. Here's one between density 3 and density 4. Here's a big one. There's one between density 4 and density 5, which leads up here. Now, these get interesting, the locks get interesting, because when we're working with Vecca codes, the density locks are the big ones. They're the ones that if you release this, it triggers release of the smaller dimensional locks. You can release the dimensional locks for certain reasons. In fact, we're going to be taught how to release specific dimensional locks and density locks that we're working with the Vecca codes when we get into the shadow body healing in order to activate the Amaroya flame in the body. But even on a universal level, those locks are still present. We're just a microcosmic reflection of the stargates of the universe. So if you want to get to density 2, you not only have to go through the stargates, you have to have the lock codes. You have to have the gate keys and the lock codes to go through to get into the next density. And where they need to be is in your body and in your template. They need to be activated in your body and in your template. Now, if you wanted to go way up here, that means you have to have a lot more. You'd have to pass through this lock. Now, for this lock, this would have the whole cumulative information of this and this. So it would be like half density 1, half density 2. So you'd have to have density 1 and density 2 full programming to be able to pass that lock. All right. Same thing up here. You'd have to have density 2 and density 3 full programming to get into density 3. And here, density 4. So up here, you would have beings that have larger templates activated. This is where your avatar self would be. In other words, you have to become your avatar to get up here. You know, you have to expand, open your fields, integrate that level of your consciousness before you'd be able to pass through gates up here. Well, it gets interesting. In a little bit, I'm going to show you where this mysterious place called the inner ecosystem lives. But for now, we've got our 12-dimensional stargates, and we've got the stargates that go with our primal field, our 3 primal light fields, and then the primal sound fields. These T's and P's and E's refer to the 3. There's the triadic level of the sound field, the polaric level of the sound field, and the acatic level of the sound field. All right, and then these are the light fields, dimension 13, 14, and 15. Look at it's kind of interesting where they cross over. I found this very fascinating just watching the gate interface places. When they interface like that, it means they're in the same place. So if we go back to remembering where our Universal Stargate 9 is, which is in Meroc, Andromeda, look what else is there. You can access 15 through that one too. So they're in the same place. It becomes interesting. Now, when we move over a little bit, okay, yeah, there we go. This is what we call the 7 higher and 7 lower heavens of the Vecca universal systems. In the Vecca systems, which are, if we go back to our cosmic egg analogy, and all these like eggs within eggs within eggs, this is the little tiniest one, all right? It's kind of like the bottom of the barrel, where you have to expand back out into the wholeness, you know, of source. Again, this is our system right here. This is our Universal Stargate system. This is our primal light field. This over here at a 90 degree shift of angular rotation of particle spin over this way is parallel. This is where we literally have parallel Earth and parallel everything we see over here. It's the antiparticle universe, which is called the Particule universe, and we are in what's called the base magnetic Particum universe. So we literally, what you have here when you look in the mirror, you've got another over there. And it might decide to do something different, like, you know, like my hair's blonde over here because I made it that way. Might be red over there, I don't know. Yeah, we have an antiparticle double that has a bit of, it's not just like when we move, it moves the exact same way. That would be really weird. There's direct connections, and we are limited to certain patterns that we have agreed on as our identity, but it is like a separate person that had a separate set of experiences. What's interesting about our parallel selves is parallel Earth was invaded. I mean, this was going on over there too. They're, you know, part of the get sucked into a black hole problem thing. And they were invaded, and they literally have complete martial law on a planetary level, one world order, Illuminati-run government, that is run by Zetas right now. Zetas are an active presence on the planet. It is well known that ETs exist. Uh-oh. Right? There have been horrible things. There were rebel groups. Guess who was a part of one? Oh, boy. A bunch of the Indigos we were too late over there. We didn't get the information out in time to get enough people to begin using the technologies. When it came time in January of 2000 to what's called anchor the stellar bridge, it was time to try to anchor that D12 frequency, and if we could anchor it when it started to come through the gates, then stellar activation would commence. We got it done. They didn't get it done over there. Their gates won't fully open, so they're sitting ducks. Now that affects our gates. That means if you look at a gate as one of those bow tie chakra systems, half of it's not working, which means some fancy footwork has to be done with our gates on this side. They have to be separated at this point. Parallel Earth is going into pole shift, complete pole shift. It's going to be at least a 90 degree shift. It is going to fall. That leaves us with a big problem because what that means, now, they're important too. Remember, Parallel Earth Stargate is one of the primary ones in the parallel universal system, right? They're falling. The parallel sun is falling. This whole thing is going to be ripped off at D11.5. The parallel of this 15-dimensional time matrix is going into the hole unless we can do something here that can not only stop us from getting dragged in, but support this one. And this is where, by the end of this workshop, we'll talk about the ARC project, because there's something real important happening about stabilizing pillars of frequency that are going to be brought in. Because if this goes down and this goes down, see this little cathar grid in here? Now look how it's formed when you put one Cathara grid here, right, at the 12, 13 points. If you link the 12, 13 points together of 4 of these, which are called quadrants. These are called Vecca quadrants. If you link them together, they form this other little Cathara grid. But actually, it's this little Cathara grid that formed first. It's a double Cathara grid, where the primal light and sound fields run directly with it. They're not shifted at a different angle. They run with the template. This is the inner ecosystem on our level. This is the first level of the inner ecosystem. This actually, there's an inner ecosystem that travels all the way up the stairway to heaven. We are just on the, kind of the lowest rung of the stairway to heaven. Now, if this gets pulled down, if you look at their central lineup of gates, okay, these are their universal gates, and their gates are in the same places that our gates are. All right, so just like we have parallel Earth and Earth, we have parallel Sun and Sun, we have parallel Arcturus and Arcturus. So parallel Arcturus and Arcturus. Now, over here, it's a little hard to see in this diagram, but we have 5, 8, and 11. There's a little 11 there. Their gate 11 intersects. It is in the same place as gate 4 in the inner ecosystem. If the black hole matrix people are trying to take this matrix down at 11.5, it would be halfway to their center control, where the Amareya flame is, by the way, that we'll talk about later. It will literally take down this particular part of the ecosystem, which would be like cutting the aorta artery. And energy, instead of blood, will spew out everywhere, and it will be a mess. Now, if ours falls, here's our interface. Our gate 11, right? We have 8, 9, 10. Our gate 11, the bigger one. The little one at the center is gate 3. This gate is called Agartha. This is the Agarthan temple that you hear about, Agartha, the inner earth. It's simply called the inner earth because you have to go down through there to enter this system to get up there. Now, this here is called the path of Amareya, where our gate 12 is at the center control point of their Cathara grid. Remember, the center control point is that point between gate 6 and gate 7, that crossbar. Our gate 12 intersects with their, let's call it point 13. Now, this, again, our gate 12 is the double-double in Lyra, or Lyra Aramatena is the official name of it. Okay, 11 is Lyra Avion, or Sheliak on the charts. These interface, this means that this is where their gates are located as well. Gate 3 in the inner earth. This is what the inner echo worlds are about. They're the ones that hold what's called the Amareya flame. And we'll learn more about the Amareya flame after we get through the maps, and then go into, Az is going to read, and this time he's going to read it seriously. Right? Yeah, because that stuff wasn't too hard. You're going to read this one seriously, right? Please? Well, anyway, it's the basic story of the creation, of how these structures were formed in the first place. And that's where we begin to understand what the Amareya flame is, what the 12 Ruche pillars are, and what that has to do with what's going on the planet and in our bodies right now. But for now, we're going to watch a building process here. So we're here in this little universe down here on the bottom rung of the stairway to heaven. Now, when we talk about 7 lower heavens, the reason these are called the 7 lower heavens, the parallel and ours are called the 7 lower heavens. If you drew a line this way through it, remember there's 1, 2, 3, 4. They have 5. That would be 1, 2, 3, 4. We share the same 4th harmonic, the 4th density, the Christos template. So you have 1, 2, 3 of those little eggs within eggs. You have 1, 2, 3 of those eggs within eggs, and then a 4th. And that gives you the 7 lower heavens. It works the same way with the 2 light fields. Now this is our primal light field here, right, our primal light and sound field. And this is their primal light and sound field. And again, you'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 eggs. All right? So that's the 7 higher heavens. Altogether, the 7 higher heavens and the 7 lower heavens represent one universal Veka, or a Veka universe. One of these things is called a quadrant. All right? So we're actually, this is how you begin to know, these are the gate maps, where to locate where a universe is, and then you can like zero them in down into the galactic grids the same way. This is quadrant 1, that's quadrant 2, that's quadrant 3, and that's quadrant 4. We're in quadrant 4 down here, okay, in this particular Veka system. The way these are figured out as far as what the quadrants are, one starts with where the energy first comes in. Now, if you remember, and this gets confusing, I tried to draw this, and I said, not right now. I just didn't have time, because boy, is that one going to be tough. And I don't have the flows quite down perfectly. There's a whole system. Imagine a current of energy, or 3 currents of energy, the 3 primal light field flames. Now remember one Cathara grid, how you have the one comes down like that, right? And the other comes down like that, and then you have the main one coming down the middle? Well, there's this whole wild circulation that takes place that runs from the inner Eka, then feeds this one first, and then spirals here, comes back out. It spirals and shifts and comes back around. It's amazing to watch what this current does. But these are the feed lines for the primal life force currents in our universal system. And we're the last to get it. It also means that energy passes from the inner Eka system. And you can also think of it in terms of thought forms. You can think of it in terms of black hole issues. This started here. The problems actually started in this inner Eka system and manifested in, because all these other 4 things are, if you take this and replicate it and split it apart, you get these 4. This is the yolk that these came out of. So there was a problem here that manifested as this, but it grew, it amplified once it came into the more polarization that's here. But there's this wild set of 3 flames that run all the way through here, and they feed first this system. If you think of it as a thought form, let's say a thought form started here. First it would manifest through here, then it would come in through here, manifesting through quadrant 2, then it would come in through here, manifesting through quadrant 3, and then finally it would get down here. If you ever wonder why it takes so long to make something happen down here, because it's got to go here and here and here and here and here before it gets back here. All right? It's only about a 3-day lapse. If you're when you know how to focus your thoughts, you can, until your template's clear, you're not going to be able to directly manifest something the way you want to. You can do some. And if you start working with this, you can make huge changes in your life. Because we do have right now, even if we did nothing, 1/3 of our template's still functional. So we can at least create 1/3 of what we'd like to manifest. All right? Now, when we work with this other stuff, when we get the flame activations, we're going to be able to use that power as well for manifestation. Visualize, energize it, send it through on the Akasha, and send it out to the universe. I mean, we don't have a formal technique on making things happen yet, but they're coming. But that's something you could do. You could play with the Veka codes and the concept of visualization, create a visualization, to begin to make things go away that you don't want there, and always do it with the intent that, in divine right order, which means I'm not going to inflict my will on anybody else, and I'm also not going to create something stupid that's going to mess up my, what my soul and my avatar have in mind for me. Because you can take yourself on tangents and become a probable self and fall off your own kind of rhythm, and then it takes you longer to get back to where you started from in the first place. So anyway, this is the lowest system, and we are in the lowest part of the lowest system. This would be the lowest frequency area in this whole system. Now, what we're aiming for in the work that we're doing is getting to a point where we could possibly visit here, which means we'd have to go from gate 3. And what we're being trained to do is go through the Amaraya passage, which is the 12, 9, 6, 3 connection. So we'd go 3, 6, 9, and 12. Now, some people will not be able to enter full 12. They'll be taken through the 311 connection, where it connects 9 and the 311. So they could go up to 9 and then through 11. This is, if it got bad on this planet, this is the evacuation route as well. And that's why they're giving the echo maps right now. This isn't something they were going to give for a number of years, because there was other things they wanted to, help us evolve in ourselves first, like clear our shadow and get ourselves together, before they gave us the maps. But because it's so precariously perched right now, and they're not sure which direction it's going to go, they want us to be prepared in case we need to go. And that's where we would go. We would go from Earth, Universal Stargate 3, through the Amaraya passage, and up through here. Some of us that couldn't hold the full, D12 couldn't go. It takes a bit more frequency to come through this point. You have to be able to hold primal light field current as well as D12 current. So people that would be like D11.5, D12 activated would come through here, but the ones that were able to hold the ki riche and the kundere would come through the center point. So there's two temples. This temple is the temple of Kemalohati that the song is about. It is a crystal pylon temple, massive crystal pylons. So it's funny, and we've projected there in some meditations and some of the workshops that we've done. We've done a meditation where we've projected to get. You got to get your mental body there first before you're ever going to get your physical body, right? So we project, and we'd come up in this temple, but we didn't know where it was. We knew it was inner Earth, wherever that is, right? Well, that's where it is. That's where those projections are taking us. Some will come in through Agartha. Agartha is actually a more dangerous route, but it's the route that people that have still some overlays and things. You can still get through here to a degree with some reversals if you have help. So this would be what was called the path of a host matrix, which means there might be people that are picked up with spaceships because their DNA is not going to get them into a full Merkaba to take them through. What's nice about this is once you get back in, you have to build all this frequency just to get in, right? Once you get in, over here, it goes back down again. To be like here in our system, 3 strands, holds 3-dimensional frequency bands. It's, I believe, double when you get into here. So you need 6 strands activated. No, actually it's 4.5 strands activated to be able to live in density 1 in inner Earth. It's not too bad once you're in there. It's getting there. That's the hard part. Like, being able to generate enough frequency to fully activate the Merkaba to pass the gates. So for now, rather than thinking of it in terms of evacuation, they're thinking of it in terms of teaching us where certain frequencies are going to come, because we're still trying to fix and stabilize things. There are going to be frequencies sent down from all of these temples, and there's a particular set that we'll see. It's called the arc project. There are arcs of energy that are going to be sent down, and they're going to have to go through, normally they would go through the whole sequence. They're going to go through the whole sequence, but we're going to get a direct one coming in to our system to anchor this system and to hold it up, literally. So when it's time to go, we'll show you later too what the black hole thing is about, how that fits in to these diagrams, where it's located, and where its axis is, because it runs on a different axis than the normal axis. Like our system is on this axis, and its light field's there, and that's the light field of the parallel, and that's the parallel axis. There's a different axis. There's 2 axes to the phantom black hole, which is the small one that belonged to us, and then the Wysadek black hole. So we'll see those as we go along too. But this is the first level. There's a lot of information you can read on here that you don't really need, but it's there. The detail is there for fun, I think, sometimes. It's there for people who want to know more. But what you mostly need to know is when you see this, you know what it is, first of all. This will tell you where inner Earth is. This will tell you where the stargates are when we look up in the sky. And there are, in the new book that you've got that we'll be going into later this afternoon, you'll see where even these stargates, how they kind of look in the star map, like on a regular star map that our scientists use. You're going to find out how these look, like how this looks, how this cathara grid fits with that. Because you don't see a giant cathara grid in the sky right now, and they're not all lined up perfectly, and they're not like that on the planetary grid either. But it's the frequency interface in the template. The template is like this. But when you have distortions, you have, literally in this time matrix, there's galaxies that are in the wrong place. They don't have the right number of planets or stars anymore, and that kind of thing. Like, we lost a couple of planets. We lost Nibiru and Charon, I believe. That we have a piece of it left that's floating around someplace out there by, I forget, Uranus or something. Anyway, that's the first level. Now look what happens out here. Remember, see how these all connected, right? And they together ended up forming the 4 points of the little inner cathara grid. The same thing is going to go on out here. You have 1, 2. Now these are you have the Akkadic level, last level of the primal sound field, last level of the primal sound field there. You have dimension 1 and dimension 1 there. These become another set of 3 pillars, right? You see how you have the 3 pillars? 1, 2, 3. You have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And we'll go up to the next level, because this becomes something else. It becomes what's called the Akasha. And this is where Akasha comes in. The word Akasha refers to this place. So you got our universal Vekas going up a bit. You got inner Earth, because you have to go through there, or inner Eka universe. Next step is...
What was the hexagons on that diagram?
Hexagons. These guys? I was just trying to show the difference in the seals. Remember when we talked about the locks? And each level you go up, it's like, uh-oh, I need another shape to show what, because if you keep using, the same shapes as whose locks or what locks, does that go with the little one or the bigger one or whatever? So I had to keep trying to use different shapes or whatever as we got bigger. All right, so you didn't lose the content of the lock numbers here. All right, so here again is basically the same thing. I'll read this first, yeah. All right, we don't need to worry about how many manifestation fields are in them right now. It gets really complicated and confusing, and there's a lot more information that we need to go into that anyway. Wait, I was reading that. Please, thank you. All right, each Vecca system has 15 manifestation fields and 3 time matrices. Okay, just so remember, this was the Vecca system. Before we get to this outer thing, this was the Vecca system. It has 3 time matrices: the inner Earth one, this one, and the parallel one. So when we talk about a 15-dimensional time matrix, here's our 15-dimensional time matrix, here's the parallel 15-dimensional time matrix, and this is together. They actually, this is why the gates have like a double charge frequency-wise. They have more subharmonics in their frequency, more sub-frequency bands in their dimensions. But this is the third 15-dimensional time matrix. So I actually have 3 there. You actually have 3 15-dimensional time matrices. And these numbers come from like adding up, but there's even more. So I don't even like to try to explain that. You're welcome to read it, and it kind of makes sense within itself. I'm still learning this stuff. But what's important is to see the formation that's happening. Now this would be, again, you took your step from our 15-dimensional time matrix. You'd have to go from here. You'd actually have to integrate the primal light and sound fields. You have to get past, these are actually they make a barrier around our 15-dimensional time matrix to be able to actually get through here. So you're actually going up here, through there, to get in back over here. It's a process that gets really interesting that we'll see as we move along, where the Vecca codes fit, that these actually come together. This angular rotation of particle spin that is shifted 90 degrees, they shift back together, both change axis to a different axis, and this would like fold up. If you look at this as your body, I'm trying to explain this, it makes sense. If you looked at this as your body, this is your parallel body, this as your parallel light field, and that as your light field. When you ascend to get into here, they actually fold up, they circulate up. And I believe it's supposed to go this way, where your parallel antiparticle double, and the particle and antiparticle fuse, come together and transmute. And at the same time that these are coming together, and they all kind of fold up. You turn into light, and then you pop up back in here. All right. It works the same with these guys. This gets confusing. Anyway, I will share with you as much as I can of this that I understand. There's a lot more to come with these. As far as what you see in here are the locks. We still have these are the little dimensional locks here, these little guys, and the triangle-shaped bigger ones, they're the density locks. All right. There's a whole system of understanding how you need to go through the density locks, and then you'd use like dimensional locks to key you towards certain planets as opposed to others and those kind of things. It's a very complicated science. It's the science of the Templar. But anyway, if we can just understand and go on the map level, there's the Vecca worlds, the inner Eka world, and now we're into what's called the Akasha world. See this gate system here? And interestingly, these didn't form this. We're going from the bottom up. So there was a top, that big first cosmic bubble, the first cosmic Cathara grid. It's from there that these progressively formed. So this big one formed, and then within that big one, these little ones formed. It's like the cosmic crystal body, because they look like, big crystals. Now, this one is called the Akasha. It's the next level up. After to get to the Akasha from the Vecca systems, you have to go through the inner Eka system, and then you can amplify frequency more and come up into some of these gates and into the reality fields that go with them. Now, this is just one Akasha here. The Akasha things are called corridors, where these were called quadrants. 1, 2, 3, 4. They're the Vecca quadrants. You have the Akasha corridors. All right? This implies there's only one, right? They do the same thing that these do. There's 4 of these that connect together, too. And that represents another step in the stairway to heaven, going upward. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Again, 12 more gates, universal stargates in the Akasha level. You would again have 1, 2, 3, 4 more eggs, right? Eggs within eggs. So literally, there's these reality fields within reality fields. Now we're going up. It's kind of, I try to figure out, is it better to come down, you know, like if it start up and come and work our way down the stairway, or to start where we are and work our way up? I think it's easier to do it this way. And, you know, so I'm going to keep going with that. Let me see, I don't think we need to read this. So again, you got the 7 lower heavens, the 7 higher heavens within one Akasha corridor. Now we go up to the next level. This is the next step in the stairway to heaven. Yeah. This is where you have 4 akashas that hook together. This is when it began to be kind of crazy on the paper, on the table, where I was taping more sheets and more sheets on it. If I'd realized it was going to do what it did, I would have started on a big sheet of paper, but I just started on one like this size. Oh my God. And then we had to break them down. Once we could break them down, like reduce them, they were manageable, like to put in the chart pack. But anyway, this is called the Akasha A, which is made of 4 akashas. Now these are the akashas, right? This level here is the akasha. These are the vekas, the veka universes within it. And there is another level of the inner Eka universes on the Akasha A level. All right? So we have one in our level, in the vekas, that's in here. It's a little hard to see on this one. Where those 4 connect together. That's the first level of the inner Eka universes. Their next level will be here. And that's like, yeah, it comes up in the D13, 12D13 point. So there's that formation again. Now look what this does out here, right? These are the akashas. These are little vekas. This is the Akasha A. And that's another set of big gates that implies one more connection, right? So we'll take it up one more to what's called the Akasha Aya, which is the first God world of creation. I'm afraid of what question you're going to ask me right now. Let me get through this first, okay? He has some really wonderful questions, but it's like ones you have to go find like a dictionary or a whole other file in your brain, because he asks really scientific questions, and I have to shift my focus. So I don't want to get lost yet. You know, if you can write it down, that would help. You know, if there's something, if it's important, write it down and save it for us, and you know, we'll try to address it that way. Okay. Yeah. I mean, with these, we're learning them too, just so you guys know. I mean, as this was coming, I was like, oh my God. I was like the week from hell. It really was, translating off the plates, because these are translated off the CPD plates. And I'm going, what is it? I'm seeing it in my head. Wait a minute, what is that? How does that work? And I'm saying, you know, I can feel there's a real simple pattern here. But to try to see it and to try to bring it down was very difficult. Once it's out, it's easy. They're really pretty easy when you see how they're all connecting together. But what's fascinating is when you realize they're not just drawings on a piece of paper. These are maps. These are universes. These are the stairway to heaven. So finally, this is the Akasha A, right? I get lost even in the diagrams. These would be the Akasha A. Inside of those, you would have the Akasha, 4 Akasha. And inside of those, you'd have the vekas, the 4 vekas, right? This forms the Akasha Aya. And that is the first level, the first step coming down in the stairway to heaven. That is the first level of creation. This particular thing. Now, this isn't the only creation. This, of course, implies that somewhere else, this is our cosmic matrix. All right? This connects us directly into Source, which we'll show as we progress. However, it also implies that there's another one of those that is a reflection of all of these. Creation is huge. It is absolutely massive. I mean, if you remember, how many bubbles do you have? If you remember how many eggs were on each one of those, you know, each one Cathara grid shape implies 3 and a 4th that is shared by 2. So I haven't even got to there of doing the math on that. But this is showing you the building, the stairway to heaven. This would be the last step up. Again, this is where the inner Eka systems would be. So the little tiny ones here would connect to, no wait, where's the first little tiny ones? first little tiny ones are, there's a level in there. It's really hard to see in this. The Vecca level is hard to see. Yeah, wait a minute. There's one, but I think there's another level in there. That's Vecca. That's Akasha. Okay, yeah. So you literally go from this inner Eka system up into, I think there's one smaller one in there. 1, up to 2, up to 3, and up to the main one. What comes down here, this becomes interesting, because here's where we find out the fuel of creation. What are these primal forces? Remember we talked about the Ire, the Mane, and the Manau forces. Well, this is the place that connects us directly into their original first expression, their first level of expression, the first level of expression of Source. So if we take this up one more, it doesn't go up in the same way. It shows you something else within this. Do what? Oh, there is one someplace where the "you are here" on it. Yeah, I do. I have that. I think that's in the supplement book. Yeah, because I have our coordinates all the way through. Yeah, I was able to trace it up, but I don't. It's in the one with the black hole stuff. I think it's in that one. We didn't have it at the time this was created, but we figured it out since. Okay. Here we go. The Akasha Aya, first God world of creation, the 12 divine scepters, and the Rushe. Oh boy. Now, 1A. The Manu void is the first Partikai unit of God force, attention. It's God force putting a part of its attention here to form the Mane, okay? Forms the first Partikai unit. This is one big Partikai unit, except I wouldn't even touch that, because size has to do with space and time. Yeah, there's certain things that you just go, how in God's name do you translate that while you're in a linear system? And it comes out that you don't. Yeah, some things you have to wait till you get up there and just get it, you know. And anyway, so the Manu force, the Manu God force, creates the void. That was the first movement of creation, the creation of the void. In the beginning was the void, and within the void God spoke the word. Next creation of projection of God force attention was the Ire. The Ire force, the little circle in there. And from the combination of the Ire and the Manu emerged the Mane, the third level of creation. Now, that's before you have the Cathara grid here. All right, what you have is this. You have first, well, actually there's another one that shows the progression of one circle is the void, right? Then you have another circle within it that becomes the Ire, and from the two combining, you get the Mane. So it's the first Trinity field. Then there's the forming of the first Cathara grid, and the first two, actually. Remember, there's 2 Cathara grids. This first one, now these are points. You have these 3 points of attention. Let's think of these for now as points of attention. Things God's putting a piece of its mind on that, right? You have a thought over here, a thought over here, a thought over here. This is a thought within a thought within a thought. So the Manu force is a living force energy of God consciousness that is eternal. Everything takes place within it. That's the first point of attention, focus of attention. Within that, the Ire, focus of attention, was placed, and from that it created another focus of attention. So it's like God's looking at itself in 3 different ways at this point. It manifested itself in the Divine Trinity. So you have that. Then, there is these 3 levels of consciousness begin to combine their energy, and they form together the first, again, Ire expression, which forms the Kristalla. So they form the first 12-point little Cathara grid. And it's actually simultaneous. The Manu, Mane, and Ire manifest as the Kristalla Cathara grid and the Christos. And together these are called the Christ. And these are spelled technically with a K, which when we had this first published, they hadn't made that distinction yet. But now, that's like a verbal correction we do because we don't have time to go redo that. Because there's, in your books, there's writing that will, spell these with a C. But this is the Kristalla, this is the Christos, and together they form the first base 12 template, which is the eternal life template for our eternal life manifestation, the first 2 Kathara grids. From this, there's something called the 12 Ruche pillars, and actually I think they form first. This is the part I'm still trying to learn. We have the reading. That's why Az is going to read it the way it was given, so we can all listen to that sequence again, because it explains how first source did this, and then did this, and then did this, and how it created these things. The 12 Ruche pillars, I won't even try to explain what they are, because the reading does it for us. I mean, I couldn't say it as clearly as it's in the reading. But what these become are seers, all right? Remember seers, standing pillars of sound. It's pre-sound, standing pillars of pre-sound vibration, conscious pre-sound vibration, all right? The Ruche pillars actually manifest all the way down through the Kathara grids. Why it becomes important for us to know this structure at this point is because these, at this level, this is the top level of the stairway to heaven, to stop our matrix from being pulled in to the black hole, these have to be activated in our system. They have to be the gates have to be opened all the way down the stairway to bring the pillars in. The pillars form arcs of energy. They form pillars first, but there's a center pillar that's called the pillar of Amaraya, which is the first Manu God force. It's actually this field back here emerging into the center of this grid, keeping an open Manu window, just like we have that Manu window in the center of our neutrons in our atoms. Well, this is a macrocosmic level of it. There's a little Manu window in here that runs what is called the Amaraya Manu flame, which is the emerald flame of Amaraya. Now, we each have this whole configuration. We are a microcosmic reflection of this creation. We have all of these things in our bodies. We have 12 Ruche pillars in our bodies. We have this structure. We have all those gates too. But what we need to learn to do as we move through the Dance 4 programs is understand where in the body these are. And we're going to find out where they fit in the body. The diagram's kind of rough on that one. We still need to fine-tune it. But to realize these are going to be activating, and they're arcs of light. This is part of the arc project. The arcs that are going to come down through our universal and then galactic and then planetary gates, these arcs of energy are starting up here. They're literally starting at that level. And they're opening from this level. They're opening the inner Eka system. So the arcs can run on each level down through all the gates to get down to us. So they can run the strength of these pillars of sound to hold our system from falling. So we've got a lot of help because there are life fields, massive life fields in every one of those. Every one of those levels of creation has a 15-dimensional matrix with it. Until you get up to here, then it's just a little different. You're in kind of like space-time doesn't do the same thing up there. You don't have matter the same way you do. But even in the Akasha and the Akasha A worlds, there are still 15-dimensional structures. There are time matrices. There are still density levels where there's some degree of matter and that kind of thing. So you can manifest. It's not like just once you get out of here, oh, you can't be in a body anymore. There's lots of options for having bodies, different kinds of bodies, bodies that are immortal. From the Akasha up, it's immortal body land, where you can transmute it if you want and make it go away. There's no such thing as death. There's no such thing as disease in the higher systems. But this is basically the structure of creation that we are all a part of, that lives within us and we live within. What is the next one on that? My arm's getting hurt. What is that one? Okay, yeah, we might as well. Which one? We'll do that one. Yeah, pillar version. That's good. Yeah. Oh, excuse me. My arm's falling asleep from holding the mic. What time is it getting to be, anybody? 1? What time do they have that? 1:30? Okay, good. Hey, stretch for a second. Okay, yeah. Yeah, we just got a stretch request. Anybody that wants to stand up and stretch, you're welcome to. Okay. You know.
Instead of using 33 and a third and 11 inches.
Back down to earth, I had to go outside and literally bring my fields back in. it gets really interesting sometimes when you start to hold a lot of frequency, and we had a lot of blowing frequency for that one because there's a lot of people. And it's really an interesting effect that sometimes happens where the vision doesn't focus in the eyes anymore. It focuses out in the field. It feels like you have big cat-shaped eyes out here and you're actually seeing this way. And when that happens, the lips don't work. It changes something in the way the natural, the usual sensory things go. And it's very difficult to speak right after that functionally, especially about things that can twist your tongue anyway, like the stuff that we were just dealing with. So, we're back in body. I hope you guys are. I just like to say thank all you guys that care enough to take the step of ordination and to become regents. It makes our work worthwhile to see that people, there's still life on planet Earth. Okay? And it just means a lot. And we'd like you to know that we love you all so very much. And most people that go into service do have a genuine love of people. So that's not said, oh, hi, we love you all. That kind of dumb stuff. It's very sincere, and we don't usually get much time to express that. So I just wanted to take the opportunity to express that and to let you know that even though there's so many of you, we'll never get a chance to talk to every one of you individually. It's like, how they're saying in school with kids that, there's like 26 kids are allowed in a class, now they're into 30. Well, there's just, too many children. They can't get the individual attention from the teacher. Try 164 or whatever. 60, I think there's 160 or 74 here today, whatever. But I would love to we'd both love to be able to spend time with each of you, and we want you to know that. And if we don't get time to talk to you personally, during these things, we don't like that either, but there's only 2 of us and lots of you and very little time that we have to work with. So I just want to take this opportunity to let you all know that we do care about you all very much. And I know everybody has a million questions because we do too. So the best thing we can do for you is lead you through what will give you the answers yourself, where you can find them. Once you work with the techniques, you'll more and more have your own inner Christos right there to say, okay, well, I'm having this problem with this. What do I do with this? That will come to you. You'll have that guidance, so you don't have to, try to ask us when we're not. We can't always be there for you. We're always there for you in spirit, though. Oh, thank you. For both of us. Embarrassing. I really wasn't cut out to be a center of attention. I always squirmed. I was always the one trying to be invisible over in the corner when I was a kid and stuff like that. Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, we still have a bit to cover with the Stairway to Heaven. And before we go into the diagrams of the Akasha Aya, okay, that's that top step up there, the first level, the first God worlds of creation, Alice is going to read for us the explanation they gave us, or the beginnings, translations of how creation happens. I couldn't even describe myself to you why it's worth listening to this, but it's worth listening to this. This is a serious piece of writing. It's not very long, but by the time that's described, when we go back to these diagrams, particularly of the top level, where we're seeing the Ruche pillars and we're seeing all this other stuff, we'll understand more of what it means, and we'll begin to understand what the flame of Amareya is. And that's going to be something that features all through the rest of the program, because once we finish with Dance for Love, we're going to go into the supplement stuff, which gets into the shadow body and the flame bodies that are the antidote. All right, so we will begin the reading. If people want to follow along in their books, let me see what page it's on. Starts on... Okay, it starts on page 5 of the second set. Because if you notice with your, I don't know if you're, how do your pages run? They run sequential, don't they? How do they run them? Do you have one set of page numbers going through, or does it stop and then start again? All right, so it's page 5 of the second series. Yeah. So I will turn this back over to you. Yes. I'm just going to have a little tour through cosmic creation, the secrets of the Unisai. And the Unisai, again, is a word that means the center point of all creation, or the one God, or the one source.
Okay, Dance for Love, Awakening the God Force Within. Section 1, Cosmic Creation, Secrets of the Unici. Bless you. Through understanding the reality of the cosmic divine blueprint, we can begin to comprehend and awaken our tangible, indelible, eternal, direct, and personal relationship to God. There is a purpose, plan, and intelligent design inherent to, behind, and within all creation. We each exist as an intimate, integral, and blessed part of a meaningful cosmic, universal, galactic, planetary, race, and personal divine order. All creation takes place within the consciousness of God, and the separation from God can only exist as the illusion of limited perception and forgetfulness of our original source. Cosmic source, God. Creation perpetually emerges from and returns to the consciousness of the one God source consciousness, within which all creation takes place. We live within the limitless field of the cosmic consciousness of God source, and God resides always within us and around us, for we and all manifestation are composed of the divine substance, the living, intelligent units of the consciousness of God. The cosmic staircase and downstepping cosmic creation. God's source perpetually sets manifestation in motion through engaging its awareness in the process of vibrational downstepping or thought formation. Downstepping occurs through contracting the consciousness into a singular point of focus, a creation intention or thought vibration, to create the first individuation of attention, a still point, creation point. Next, the original thought vibration is replicated within the vibration of the first to form the second individuation of consciousness, expanding the first vibration from within itself to create a static field of absolute vibrational agreement between the original thought vibration and its replica. To form the divine trinity of eternal life, perpetual motion, through which interactive creation is set in motion, the thought vibration replica is then polarized within the expanded original first thought, forming two separate thought vibrations, each holding a larger primary part of the original vibration as it initially existed, and a smaller secondary part of the original vibration, inverted, or vibrating in direct opposition to the first vibration, its intention reflecting the opposite of the original thought intention. God's source sets creation in motion through perpetually engaging part of its awareness in vibrational downstepping, by which the cosmic divine trinity of eternal life creation is formed. The cosmic force, the unified divine cosmic trinity, Manu, Ire, and Mane. The framework of manifest creation begins with God's source downstepping within itself, the divine cosmic trinity of the unici, the point of all union, which is formed as God's source first manifests itself as the cosmic divine trinity of eternal God force identity, creating within itself the Manu, first particle consciousness, unit divine spirit womb, cosmic void, eternal still point. The Ire, first particum pre-sound vibration unit, divine mother creation seed, contracting receiving consciousness force. And the Mane, first particle pre-light vibration unit, divine father creation spark expanding, transmitting consciousness force. The eternal God force consciousness fields thus form the unici, the living cosmic thought crystal within which all manifestation occurs. The cosmic Christos. The divine blueprint Cathara, Crystalla, and Christos creation emerges within the unici as designed by God, following a specific base 12 eternal creation program of mathematical geometrical interrelationships of consciousness that is called the Cathara template divine blueprint, or the Cathara grid. Within the Unisi Manu force field, the Ire and Mane force fields each create a Kathara grid that is formed upon 12 specific points of consciousness attention, expressed as 12 fixed or standing points of vibration. The two 12-point Kathara grids of the Mane and Ire together form the base 12 24-point cosmic Kathara divine blueprint. The word Kathara expresses the divine intention God Source holds in creation of the Unisi. Ka, light, emanation, expression. Tha, sound, vibration, intention. Ra, one spirit. The one spirit of God intending to express as creation. The Ire Kathara grid is called the Kristalla, meaning God intends. The Mane Kathara grid is called the Christos, meaning God expresses. The cosmic clock, downstepping the 12 Ruche scepter pillars. Through vibrational interaction of consciousness within the cosmic Kathara grid, the Manu, Ire, and Mane God forces of the Unisi recreate the original creation process of vibration downstepping by which the divine cosmic trinity perpetually individuates within the consciousness of God's source. Following the impetus to create as imbued by the original God source creation intention, the Manu, Ire, Mane God forces intertwine a portion of their consciousness and downstep the vibrations of the cosmic Kathara grid 3 times to form a set of 12 layered points of vibration fixed in a circular organization within the cosmic Kathara grid template, each of which forms a singular scalar standing columnar wave or pillar of vibration called a seer within the Unisi. The set of 12 cosmic seer standing waves are called the 12 Ruche scepter pillars, which together form the first scalar wave field that becomes the core God world of creation. The cosmic heart and fire, the Manu window and Eka eternal flame. Following the cosmic Kathara grid program, the 12 Ruche scepter pillars vibrationally interact within the Unisi, creating an opening called the Manu window, manifestation point or 0 point, at the center points of the Ire and Mane Kathara grids, the Kristalla and Christos, which links the center of the Ruche scepter circle directly into the Manu force field of first creation and the living eternal consciousness field of God's source. The 12 Ruche scepter pillars interact with the Manu field, causing a quantity of the Manu force consciousness called the Amareya wave pillar or Eka Manu eternal flame to emerge through the Manu window to form a 13th scepter at the center of the Ruche circle. Through the Manu window, the Amareya wave circulates pulses of living God consciousness between God's source and the eternal God force consciousness fields of the Unisi, setting in perpetual motion the processes of eternal life creation. The Amareya wave, Eka Manu eternal flame, is known as the heart of God, as it circulates pulses of living God consciousness, the eternal life stream, perpetually in and out of manifestation. The cosmic arcs, the 12 Ruche scepter arcs, and the cosmic shield. Through vibrational interaction with the Amareya wave pillar Eka Manu flame, the 12 Ruche scepter pillar columnar waves bend towards the Ruche center to form 12 arcs of consciousness, 6 Ire force arcs and 6 Mane force arcs that are collectively called the 12 Ruche scepter arcs. The Ire and Mane force arcs pass together through the Manu window at the Ruche center, blending and replicating their vibrational content within the Eka Manu flame to form 12 rotating, scalar standing columnar wave disks of bipolar Ire Mane consciousness, called the 12 Ruche scepter shields, which are linked together through a central tripolar scalar wave disk composed of blended Manu Ire Mane force called the cosmic shield of Amareya that forms within the central Eka Manu flame. Each of the 12 Ruche scepter shields forms a living circuit of counter-rotating God force, the Ire scalar standing waves forming a counterclockwise rotating scalar field that receives God force consciousness from the Ruche and Unisi field and contracts it back to God source through the Manu window for demanifestation. the Manet scalar standing waves forming a clockwise rotating scalar field that transmits new pulses of God force from the Manu window and expands into the Unisai and Ruche shields for manifestation. The synchronized rotation of the 12 counter-rotating Ruche scepter shields, held perpetually together through the central shield of Amareya, brings into being the first expression of God force consciousness as electromagnetic force, the living primal life force current from which all manifest worlds emerge. The cosmic Merkaba, the Amareya, Akasha, and Veka Merkaba fields. The perpetual rotation of the 12 Ruche scepter shields and the Amareya shield create a perpetual motion living circulatory system of God force as electromagnetic current, which forms 12 smaller bipolar Ruche scepter currents that are entwined together through the central tripolar current of the Amareya shields. As the scepter shields rotate around the axis of the rotating central Amareya shield, the Eka Manu flame separates the counterclockwise rotating, contracting Ire currents from the clockwise rotating, expanding Manet currents, as the Amareya shield holds the two polarized currents in direct relationship with each other, forming two counter-rotating spirals of polarized Ire and Manet God force current within the Eka Manu flame, which are held together and interwoven through the Amareya shield. The Ire spiral contracts God force in from the Eka Manu flame, sending it toward the center point Manu window, creating a negative electrical current, which creates the effect of a magnetic force and gravity, as the Manet spiral expands God force from the center point and Eka Manu flame, creating a positive electrical current. The synchronized perpetual rotation of the Ire and Manet currents creates the first cosmic Merkaba field, the Amareya Merkaba. Mer meaning God force movement, Ka meaning God force expression, Ba meaning body or vehicle. The Amareya Merkaba is built upon the base 12 24-point mathematical program of the cosmic Kathara grid. The 12 points of the slower vibrating Ire Kristalla Kathara grid form the geometrical shape of a 12-point 12-plane counterclockwise rotating Merkaba scalar wave spiral, the bottom spiral of the Merkaba field, and the faster vibrating Manet Christos Kathara grid forms the geometrical shape of a 12-point 12-plane clockwise rotating Merkaba scalar wave spiral. Together, the Ire and Manet Merkaba spirals create the 24-point 24-plane base 48 form of the singular cosmic Amareya Merkaba field. The intricate procedures by which the Amareya Merkaba field is formed are replicated and repeated by the God force currents through several stages of downstepping to create within the first Merkaba field the smaller Merkaba field living energy consciousness fields, within which a multitude of electromagnetic manifestation domains are formed. Each 12-point Kathara grid that forms one of the two cosmic Kathara grids through which the 24-point 24-plane cosmic Amareya Merkaba field is created replicates, polarizes, and vibrationally downsteps to form a pair of smaller base 12 Kathara grids, each of which form a 6-point 6-plane Merkaba spiral that together form a 12-point 12-plane base 24 Akasha Merkaba field. From the first downstep, one 24-point 24-plane base 48 Amareya Merkaba forms two 12-point 12-plane base 24 Akasha Merkaba fields. Okay. On the second downstep, the two Akasha Merkaba fields form four 6-point 6-plane base 12 Biveka Merkaba fields. On the third downstep, the four Biveka Merkaba fields form eight 3-point 3-plane base 6 polarized Merkaba spirals called Veka Merkaba fields. The cosmic egg, the cosmic radial bodies, and the 15 God cells of the God seed. Through the perpetual spin of the counter-rotating electromagnetic God force currents within the cosmic Amareya Merkaba field, the 15 cosmic spheres or 15 God cells of the cosmic God seed are formed. the force and counterforce of the Ire and Mane Merkaba spirals creates within the center of the Merkaba field, which is within the Eka Manu flame at Rushia's center, a perfectly balanced spinning electromagnetic force field in the shape of an elliptical sphere that is called the form constant, or electrostatic cosmic holographic radial body. Formation of the first God cell sphere within the Amareya Merkaba sets in simultaneous motion the Merkabic downstepping process, each downstep creating within the center of its Merkaba field another holographic radial body God cell. The first downstep creates 2 additional God cells. The second downstep creates 4 more God cells, and the third downstep creates the last 8 God cells for a total of 14 God cell radial bodies, expanded within the original first God cell, the cell of Amareya, which is known as the 15th cell. Through downsteps 1 and 2, God cells 2 through 6 form within the first cell Amareya radial body, within the Eka Manu flame Manu window Rushe center point, or 0 point, creating the core or yolk of the cosmic egg. The final 8 God cells form the Eka Manu flame 0 point within the center of the Amareya radial body yolk, expanding the cluster of the first 7 yolk cells outward to become the cosmic egg, as the last 8 cells become the yolk at the center of the Amareya radial body. The first 7 cells expand to become the last 7 cells, as the original last 8 cells emerge from the 0 point center to expand the original first 7 cells into externalization. Through the intricate working of the Merkabic holographic radial bodies and the Manu Ire Mane divine trinity of God force currents, the first 15 eternal God cells come into being within the Eka Manu eternal flame, causing the Eka Manu flame scalar columnar standing wave to expand outward from within itself, forming a stationary spherical standing wave of Manu God force called the cosmic Amareya crystal, a cosmic thought crystal radial body, stationary scalar standing wave in the shape of an elliptical sphere or cosmic egg, surrounding the perpetual creation that takes place within its core. In fulfillment of the base 12 eternal life mathematical geometrical creation program held within the cosmic Christos divine blueprint, the process of 6 downsteps that formed the original cosmic egg is repeated once more within the Amareya crystal, creating a total of 12 downsteps through which the microcosmic replica of the cosmic God seed forms a universal God seed with 15 smaller universal cells that form the structure of 15-dimensional time matrix systems within the God worlds formed through the cosmic God seed. The God worlds of the cosmos. The cosmic God seed forms the Akasha Ea down step 1, the Akasha A down step 2, and the Akasha down step 3 core, higher, and middle God worlds, and the universal God seed down steps 7 through 12 forms the clusters of 7 higher and 7 lower heavens of the lower God world universal Vecca time matrix systems. Oh. Yes. This is serious business, and since it's the Sabbath, I couldn't possibly.
Really? Who made Sunday the holy day? I think the Romans did, actually. Okay, I'll be right with you. Let's see, where do we go from here? Oh yeah, that. Okay. You know, I never tried that before with having the reading and the graphs going at the same time. I tried, the first time I taught this, to explain those graphs as best as I could. But I would feel like a million things that I was leaving out. This time it worked out perfect. And then I hadn't planned to do that either. You know, I was just going to read it, and then I was going to go back to the graphs. But it dawned on me, hey, why don't we do this together? So anyway, fortunately you have the writing on that. So if you go, what was that all? You can read it again. It's there. But I found it absolutely fascinating. It literally tells the first creation structure, how Merkaba fields got created in the first place, how these eggs got created in the first place, what these roof-shaped pillars are, and what the Amareya flame is in the middle. That's that middle part that comes down all the way through all of the echo worlds. That is what we're going to be activating in our bodies and in our biofields on the microcosmic personal level. And that's what we're going to be activating on the planet, and that's what the guardian races are activating all the way up through this 15-dimensional time matrix. It's needed in order to prevent the fall, to be, you know, a permanent fall at this point. So we're in some very fine times these days. Now, these type of things happening are not commonplace within the universal structure. They don't happen very often, so they're like huge learning laboratories when you have a situation like we do in our universal matrix. There's a lot of beings from all over the place watching this and helping as well. A lot of people say when they start to see the lists of the intruder races that are coming in from the black hole system, they say, are there any good guys out there? There are so many good guys out there that you can't even make a list. It's hopeless, because most of creation is upholding the original creation intention of loving co-creation in free will matrices. The black hole systems are exceptions to that rule, and even though they might have lots and lots of beings in them, it's nothing compared to the amount of the guardian races that live in all of the systems of the Akasha and the Akasha A and the Akasha Aya worlds. So we're very much not alone in this. And if you look at that massive structure of the stairway to heaven that comes down from the Akasha Aya to the Akasha A to the Akasha and into the Veka worlds, and then you look at this like small black hole system that is part of like a smaller part of this universe, like the part of it fell off this universe. It's a no-brainer. There's no contest here. That's what's so ridiculous about it. The beings who have become so convoluted in their consciousness that they actually think they can hijack creation, they just don't get it. They really just don't understand the futility of that type of agenda. Now, bring it down to earth a little. Okay. If we bring it down from the Akasha Aya, where we were just seeing all sorts of wild-looking things with the 15 original cells of creation and all of that, that's at the Akasha Aya world. Take it down a step, you're at the Akasha A. Take it down another step, you're at the Akasha. Take it down another step, and you're in the Veka universes back home. Okay. Now, in our Veka universe, it's kind of interesting. This whole structure of the radial body that would surround a universal structure, a set of the set of 12 stargates. This is actually how it looks. That interface that we saw on the maps, where you have the crossover. You have the 1 Cathargrid, 2 Cathargrid, 3 and 4 going like that. This is how it looks in relation to what we know is out there, what science tells us is out there in the galaxies. I think this is. Excuse me. Hezekiah, what does it mean when it blinks? Okay. Oh, thank you. This is borrowed. All right. What this diagram is showing us is a bunch of things. There's a lot of information on this particular diagram. It's a little hard to show on here because I'm going to have to keep sliding it back and forth as I talk. So I'll try to talk about this first, then talk about some of these, and then when we need to see the rest of it to get the shape, then we'll go over there. Basically, the radial body is shaped like a big akasha, like a three-dimensional akasha teardrop. And there are layers of frequency. And what you have as the radial body, the universal radial body, you'd have the outside layer, which would be the Manu field. It's called a Rion field. You'd have the Mane, and then you would have the Ire fields going in. Then, inside of that, you would have the Kundera primal sound fields, Key-Riche primal light fields layer. Then you'd have density 4, density 3, density 2, and density 1. Okay? We're in density 1, and this is our little solar system within density 1. So it's kind of interesting. If we're here and like we want to travel, if you don't take the gates, you can send an object out, 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 and it's going to bounce off the void. And eventually, it will look like space-time curves, because eventually it'll be like a boomerang where things come back on themselves if you don't know how to go through the gates and the locks. Now, what this shows is, first of all, this one running up here. All right, that is our 12 universal stargates. You have this one down here, Stargate 1, in Trapezium Orion and Orion's Sword. Stargate 2 in Epsilon Eridanus. All right, now these are also reflected up through the other density levels, okay? It would have distorted the diagram to try to do it. So I wanted to show you that the density levels are all in here, but they'd actually be connected, with these gates. All right, I'll go back to where I am. There. Universal Stargate 1, Trapezium Orion. 2, Epsilon Eridanus. 3, Earth. 4, the Sun. Now, what's interesting about our Sun is this is actually a binary system. There are twin suns here, but one is in density 1, and one is right over through the void in density 2. So that's why there's 2 number 4s here, because they both hold the gate. All right, they hold the crossover gate. There's actually locks in here. The lock that would be between the density lock that's between gate 3 and gate 4, you would find it in between Earth and the Sun, actually. But you'd go through the Sun, you come from Earth, and you go through the Sun if you're going to go up this way. Now, the path of Amareya we've talked about is taking this path up. All right. But anyway, we have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Our gate 12 connects to the 13 point up here, which is where the Amareya flame anchors, where it starts all the way up the top of the stairway to heaven and comes down all those steps through the Eka. This gate system running here, this is the inner Eka system. All right? This white area around it is meant to show its radial body around it, just like ours has a radial body around it. And this is the void space around it. Now, the void space around it is a rheon field. It's made of rheons. You have mesons, trions, and rheons, which make up the basic radial body. So when we're talking about the void is the rheon field, and it's made of Manu God force. That's the carrier of the Manu God force. So literally, when we go in to when we're going to take the gates up to go into the inner Eka system, we cross through this void. We have to cross through all these little voids, first of all, because as we're going through our gate system, we're actually crossing through the density 1 void, the density 2, density 3, density 4. We have to cross through the density 4 void, which would take us up into here. So we cross through the density 4 void and the Eka void. So this is showing in more down-to-earth terms, where at least we know this. This is our the orbital plane of our solar system plane, with the Sun and Earth. Now, what's interesting about this is this also shows how the interface works between the universal gate system and the galactic gate system. Our solar system is a little different right now than it originally was. Our solar system and all solar systems originally would normally have 12 planets. They would have 12 orbitals around the 13th point. But there's a lot of things that happen with the evolution of solar systems, so that can change. And if you look at the things that the Hubble spacecraft is bringing back, the pictures they're bringing back, there's all sorts of weird arrangements out there now, because there's a lot of distortion in the templates in this universal time matrix. Now, we have our Sun, which is where universal gate 4 is. But here we have Mercury. That's galactic Stargate 1. Okay? Venus is galactic Stargate 2. Earth, here we go again, is galactic Stargate 3. So it's galactic and universal Stargate 3. It holds a very important point. It's a crossover point. So basically you can, if you mess with this one, you can, if you mess with the template for Stargate 3, universal and galactic, you can mess with this grid and you can mess with this grid and all of the planetary systems built upon them. That's why, again, Earth is center stage in this drama and has been for a long time. Now, if we go, okay, 3, 4, on the, this 4 over here is the galactic gate. That's Mars, all right? 5 isn't there anymore. It was there a while ago until seeding 2 ended with the 1,000 Years' War and they blew it up. It was a planet that was called Maldak, and it was inhabited by a race of reptilians for quite a long time. And then the Anunnaki took it over, and then our guys had a base on it for a while, and then it all ended up in a cosmic war in second seeding, which was like, when did the second seeding start? 3 million years ago? I forget. I have to look at my history charts. But anyway, they blew it up. That's where we get the asteroid belt from. What's left of Maldak, which was Universal Stargate 5 planet, is now the asteroid belt. However, there's still a partially functioning gate hole there, even though the planetary body around it isn't there anymore. And it's actually carried in pieces within the asteroids themselves. If you put them all back together again, you could begin to awkwardly reassemble the template for what was Planet 5. Planet 6 is Jupiter. Stargate 6 is Jupiter. 7 is Saturn. 8 is Uranus. 9 is Neptune. 10 is Pluto. 11 was Chiron. There was a planet that was called Chiron that was actually partially destroyed and partially hijacked. What we have right now is a piece of it's floating around down and through here between Saturn and Jupiter, I think. Yeah, if you look, I have a hard time at this angle seeing which lines they're between. But there's a piece of what used to be this planet there that science has identified. And there's another piece of it that's been hijacked along with what used to be the 12th planet, which was Nibiru. Now, Nibiru is nowhere to be seen at this point, except every 3,658.7 years, I believe, it comes back in. Now, as we get into the phantom stuff, we talk about the black hole things in the shadow body part of the course, there are some graphs, I think I have them in there, that show where Nibiru went. They show the orbital that it's on. It used to be in this orbital plane, and now it actually dips into the black hole and then comes back up into our system at a really awkward angle, and it cycles through this way from the black hole and back out, and from the black hole and back out again. It's been like a patrol station, but it's also it's part of the mechanism of the beast that we've talked about. It's part of the mechanism. These people move planets to where they want them so they can generate massive amounts of magnetic force and those kind of things. I mean, think about the intelligence, the level of science they're dealing with. And it's a corrupt science that's built on true science, on genuine Templar science. So right now we have our galactic stargates and we have our universal stargates. Up here we have the inner Earth stargates. These guys running over here would be our primal light field gates. And these over here would be the parallel gates. Right? And this here that you're seeing the little dotted line, that's just showing where the next level would be, the Akasha level. So this is how this plugs in to what we already know is out there, scientifically, from what our astronomers and our scientists are telling us. And I found it was very helpful to understand where all these pieces fit. So, okay, when you look out there and when you send a spaceship out there, what does out there have to do with all this stuff? Right? This is what it has to do with it. Literally, these planes, there's a part that isn't fully shown here. I don't know if I left it on this graph or not. But, yeah, I think I did. Yeah, right here. I think these lines coming here, they go over here. Galactic electrical Merkaba. This is the top half of the galactic Merkaba spiral. Okay? And then it has another one that goes down beneath our galactic plane. So literally, this, on the galactic level,